televised.
I made it from Texas, y'all. I came all the way here for y'all. For y'all.
Hi.
We're starting. We're starting. Hello.
Hey, Emily, I'll give you like a 5-second countdown.
I am going to call to order the June meeting of the Complete Streets Committee. Do we need to take a roll call?
I think technically, but I'd like to note that Linda Detmer has resigned.
Thank you.
So
We
you are-
appreciate her service.
Or at least say all present.
Is everyone present? Okay. May I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll move to adopt agenda.
And I get a, all in favor?
Aye.
Any public comment on the agenda?
Yeah, I received an email from Chris Florkowski just before this meeting. I'll read it. Not too long. Please accept this public comment for the Complete Street Safety Committee meeting. Brisbane has been experiencing vehicle collisions resulting in deaths and injuries. I recommend that Brisbane PD make brief quarterly presentations to the Complete Street Safety Committee for any collisions that result in injuries or deaths. This could help the committee's understanding of where there are safety issues on Brisbane streets. Listed below are items that were published on the police blotter. This list may not be comprehensive. Chris Florkowski. And then I'll forward this email to you guys after this meeting, but she has a few incidences listed here.
Okay. Are there any other public comments regarding the agenda?
That's all.
Okay. May I get a motion to approve the minutes from the May 7th, 2025 meeting?
I make a motion to approve the.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. We have a presentation from MPS Safetystick.
I was thinking I'll drive and you just say next slide and we'll just go along with that.
Okay, all right. I brought it all the way from Texas.
Hello, I'm sorry, Chair and committee members. In the May 7th meeting, we had brought up the safety sticks, and you guys asked for a presentation for municipal safety. And we have Stacy Hartwig here, all the way from Texas, to give you guys the presentation on how the product works, their platform, and how it can be incorporated to the Visitacion Valley corridor issue.
Thank you, Commander Garcia.
I'm going to try to, you mean speaking to Mike? I'm going to try to run through this fairly quickly. Do you want me to stop and let you ask questions as we go through the slides, or wait until the end? Yeah, just stop me at any point.
Great.
Okay, all right, so this is a safety stick device. That's front page. Tomas, if you could go to the next one. Meet the safety stick. All right, this is what it looks like in person. Next one. So the safety stick is designed to enforce all illegal parking spaces without having to put your officers on the streets. One of the great things about this device is we don't have to hardwire it or tear up your sidewalks. It bolts into the sidewalk. It can be easily moved. It's not permanent. If you don't like the productivity, it's not picking up enough violations, traffic, you can easily move it to another location, or you can ship it back to MPS at no cost, which is my company, and we will provide a shipping label. Easy as that. I don't know if you guys have a copy of the slides. I don't know if y'all can see what's behind you. It gives you kind of a bird's eye view, mounts into the sidewalk, goes into the flow of traffic. It does not take surveillance. I always like to mention that when I meet with California cities. It only takes pictures and captures the vehicle. There's no faces, no people. As soon as it registers that a vehicle illegally parks, or if it's time parking up to an allotted time, as soon as that vehicle parks, this device is going to wake up. It's got a high definition camera and a radar detector. It's gonna take a picture, it's gonna timestamp and track it until the car leaves. Then it's gonna write up an evidence form that goes through the cloud directly to your PD or whoever would issue citations, okay? There's a specialized lithium battery in the bottom. If you have a shaded area, it only takes about 30 minutes to charge this device for 3 months. So it specifically has a strong battery for that reason, so that if it doesn't get a lot of sun, Washington, cloudy states or anything like that, it's gonna stay charged for a long time. any questions on the design?
So there's also solar charger on top in addition to the plug-in.
It's not plug-in, it's
Okay,
just
just
solar
solar.
panel. It's just solar panel, which that is what makes it so easy for cities to adopt, is it's not permanent. You can put it in, if you don't like it in a year, 6 months, you have an uproar, from the community, you can easily take it out, move it, or ship it back.
So is it one per vehicle?
It's one per vehicle, and as we get into this, I've got some other solutions I'm gonna mention depending on what your circumstances are. This is one per vehicle. So it's great for, let's keep going and we'll get into locations
All right.
and I'll explain it. So time parking, this device, ideal locations, this device, time parking, loading zones. If you have a 60-foot loading zone, you're probably gonna need 2 to 3. It will only,
Stacy,
will-
can I get you back on the mic, closer to the
Oh,
mic so
sorry.
the general
Sorry, guys.
public can hear? Thank
let
you.
me get over here. It will register that a vehicle has parked up to 30 feet. So if you are 20 to 30 feet. So if you have a 60-foot loading zone, we'd probably recommend 2 to 3. As we start digging into the city and the locations, we have an engineer that will completely map out renderings for you. Otherwise, you've got fire hydrants, no parking zones. We are affiliated with Vision Zero. Vision Zero, do you have Vision Zero in?
Yeah.
Vision Zero is here. This is a safety device. Your crosswalks, your bus lanes, your bike lanes. They highly recommend our product. School zones is another one. I know you guys just started the daylighting law as of January 1st. Every city I talk to does not have the officers to even man them. They can't even keep up with the other illegal parking spaces. You put one of these at your crosswalk, it will capture every vehicle 24/7. It doesn't take bathroom breaks. It doesn't take holidays off. Any car that parks, it's capturing. That is how you change behavior, right? I like to compare it to my kids with cookies on the table. If I'm in there and they don't eat them, as soon as I'm gone, they are eating those cookies like crazy. That's the same with the device. So, next slide, Tomas. So the commander and I talked about different locations. You guys have a lot, the vacant lot, 22 San Bruno Avenue. He said that you guys want to convert it into parking because you're trying to increase parking for the city. The device, I actually have another solution for that we'll kind of get to at the end, but this device does do that. So if you have 2-hour parking, which the next slide we'll get to in a second, this one, I should put this one first. Your 2-hour parking, you put it in those slots. As soon as they park, if they stay over 2 hours, it's immediately going to write up that evidence form and go to the police department. They never have to look back at these locations and worry about enforcing again. It's so turnkey. Can you go back to the previous one? As far as the lot, what I would recommend for this, and I put a slide at the end so you have information, we have a lot technology that does the same thing. It would almost be ridiculous to put one of these in every single spot in the lot. I have a lot technology where we can put one camera at every entry and exit, and when they pull into the lot, if they're in there for more than 2 hours, it's gonna do the exact same thing. They pull out of the lot, it doesn't matter what side they pull in and out, it's gonna automatically timestamp their car. So it's still free parking, but it's just, and those are hardwired. The good thing about the hardwired ones that are up on poles is if they have a warrant out for their arrest or it's a stolen vehicle, if it goes through that lot, it can automatically ping the police department. If it pulls into that lot and it's hardwired, if they have 3 unpaid parking tickets, it can alert a boot company, a tow company, or call the police department. So there's a way to kind of work on that. The solar panel devices only have so much battery capacity, but it's harder for us to get cities to adopt the hardwire version because they're so permanent, right? So the lot technology, if you have streets, Sierra Madre has been a big topic with the commander and I. Sierra Madre has numerous streets that are 2-hour parking. They're uniform parking. There's no alleyways for exit. I can run that like a lot. So if you have a block, instead of putting this down the entire sidewalk in every spot, I can put a camera at each end of each block. Same thing. They pull in. If they're there for more than 2 hours, it's going to write up an evidence form. So there's multiple ways to do this depending on your situation. So that's something we can kind of dig into if you're open to it.
I have a quick question. I guess on the next slide, you could advance one slide, Tomas. On the example there on the right, would you recommend then one of these units between the 2 spaces would monitor both spaces, or would it be like 1 unit per space regardless of the orientation?
It would have to be 1 per space because, so let's just say you have angled parking here. Sorry, angled parking here. It can't unfortunately, my device doesn't turn. It has to get just the parking space in front of it. It's not released yet, but we are coming out with a drone in the fourth quarter. So a lot of my cities that do adopt our technology, if they want to switch to a drone, there's no cost to take the technology out and switch. That's an option.
So have other cities implemented that technology here in California?
So I was hired on for the state of Texas, and I was gifted California. That's why I'm here. It takes 2 years to get implemented into a state. You can ask. So the commander and I, our first meeting was June 16th of 2023. It takes a good 2 years to get my wheels going in a city because once I do the initial presentation, I send updates, I send data from other states. I am just now getting embedded into the state of California. I've got 4 council meetings. I feel like all of a sudden everybody wants it. Sierra Madre, Fresno, I'm deep in council. Sierra Madre just signed a deal for over 200 devices. We're currently working on our installation plan. I've got Glendora, San Bernardino, who has no enforcement whatsoever. They're even putting us into their lots, their soccer complex. They're even getting into our solar panel parking meters, as well as Glendora. And then Palm Desert, I go to council in September. So everyone, but the Sierra Madre one's already signed.
Can they be moved around?
Yes, yes, yeah. And I have a slide at the end that shows you the install. But yeah, that's the great thing is that city council, to approve hardwiring 100 of these, if you have like Sierra Madre doing 200 devices, it would take me 10 years to probably get that approved. And not only that, but we'll get into that too. We cover the cost of everything. It's so expensive for us to hardwire them. This device being solar panel, you're so flexible. You put it in, you don't like it, you don't like the location, you move it, you ship it back. Like it's not, and it's it's hardly any damage done to the sidewalk.
Yeah, I just had a question about like the use case. So how similar is it to parking meters today where there's like a visual indication of, you know, when the time measurement's starting and when it's expiring and whether someone's like in violation, you know, you can see when you come back, you have a ticket on your car. So how similar is that overall user flow with this device?
Yes. Okay, I have this very detailed. Can you wait a couple slides?
Sure.
Okay, you're going to be very impressed. Okay, next slide. Tomas, are there any other questions? No? Okay, I'm very passionate about my device, guys, so I'm all smiles over here. Okay, let's get into the model first. So the other great thing about this device is it's zero cost to your city. You could order 5, you could order 500. We fully 100% invest. So if you think about that, we can come in and do all of your illegal parking enforcement. Doesn't cost you a dime. We make our money back on the violations that come out of it. So we'll get to that in a second. As far as covering the cost of the device, we cover the shipping and we cover the install. You can literally get these in your city, zero cost, fully enforced for nothing. One of my top California questions is vandalism. Do you guys have a big homeless population?
No.
Okay. Fresno has to cage all of their city devices. Any maintenance, vandalism, damage, somebody runs one over, we've had a snow plow take one out, we are fully liable. The city calls us, tells us they have one down. One man down, we ship you a new one, a prepaid label, put the old one in the box, you ship it back. The city's not liable in any way. As far as performance-based use, we used to have a performance minimum of citations, like a $140 minimum. We have since further protected the city to where now it's a number of violations. So again, it's going to protect you from any cost. Depending on the citation rate, so like I'm going to keep using Sierra Madre because that deal it's a huge deal and they just signed. They have $100 citations. So we put it in their contract that they have to have at least 5 violations a month, or we have the right to move it or ask you to ship it back. Because we're investing, for them, we're looking at investing almost $500,000. We have to see some kind of tickets to get our money back. These devices will go in and see full compliance. We'll put devices in and they will go from them not being able to control the vehicles parking there to they don't have a single vehicle parking there in 1 month. This is a force multiplier. It's an officer. When people see it, they say, oh, shoot, I'm going to get a ticket. So the performance-based, the violation number, does that make sense? Like we have to have a minimum, but that is completely up to negotiations with the city and what your citation rate is. How we make our money, the next bullet point is the revenue share. We have 2 options. I'm a very honest rep with my company and I love this product, I'm gonna tell you which way to go and we're gonna do estimations to break it down. We do a 40-60 split to where we would get 40% of every ticket, regardless if it's paid or not, the city gets 60%. We have another model that we do 50-50, but only on the paid tickets. So if only 50% of people pay the tickets, you're only paying us for those 50%. So it takes the risk out of paying on people that don't pay. So this is where I'd probably get with the commander, if you approve after today, not approve, but approve us actually do an installation plan. I would get with him to break down the number on, you know, what is the percentage of people that pay and what is the best route for you to take. Commander, do you have anything to add to that? No? Did I explain that okay? So we would get either 40% on every ticket, regardless if it's paid, or we would do a 50-50 split on just the paid tickets. That fully protects the city on the people that don't pay. But we have cities that boot cars, they have all these procedures in place, you know, their vehicle registration. If you don't have that and you don't know what your percentage is that pay, I always recommend doing the 50-50 so you're protected.
Can I ask a question to Commander Garcia? Do we have a study or some sort of way to track how many people are actually paying their tickets?
We don't currently track that because we do a third-party vendor, and we can find out from the third-party vendor, but right now we don't have a mechanism to track that.
I mean, they're all locals, we know everybody, but not that we need to shame anybody to paying their ticket, but like, do we know if people are paying them or not?
I can get that for you.
Yeah.
Data ticket, right?
Yeah, that.
Yeah, so through data ticket, you could probably find out your percentage and we could break out, that's what I did with Sierra Madre, which is the best route to take. What I recommend is they're using Phoenix Group. I told them, keep Phoenix Group, let them do whatever tickets they're doing in collections for you. We can also, which gets to the bottom bullet point, I recommend doing the 50-50 share and just keeping us on a separate platform. We are capable of mailing all of your citations, doing collections, setting up a payment platform, and then we would literally mail the city a check for all the paid tickets and only keep the tickets that are 50%. You would do nothing. You'd put these in, we fully take over, we fix the problem, and you get 50% of the paid tickets. For us to do the additional work, to mail all your citations, it's typically, so it's a total, we send out 3 violations. This is gonna get confusing, okay? So stay with me. 3 violations, or three notifications that go out is up to $7.31 currently, based on our mailing rates. On average, people will pay by the first or second notification. So I would say it's more like $5.50 per ticket. That will get you everything else included. So that $5.50 on average per ticket, we would mail 3 notices, handle collections, the payment platform is included, and then we mail the city a check and you don't do any work. I mean, once you approve these and we put them in, you pay that extra $5.50 per ticket and you get nothing but a check back. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes, but so the city wouldn't have to pay anything outright. It would just come out of whatever revenues you're collecting, and then you would send the balance
We would do the 50-50 split, and then I say on average, depending on your payment rate, $5.50 per ticket, and you're guaranteed the rest. What Sierra Madre is doing, I've got cities in Texas are doing. One of my big cities now, they've got 8 blocks that they're about to cover, all 8 blocks. Their tickets are $30. It's a college town. They're increasing the ticket to $35 to cover the cost of the additional service, because they don't have the manpower to enforce 8 blocks, and they don't have the manpower to mail out 500 tickets. So for $5 a ticket, we fully take over. If you were to run it, we do have cities that, Denver, Colorado, there's a bunch on the East Coast. They also use Phoenix Group, Data Ticket. I'm in cahoots with Dallas, Texas right now. I think they use Phoenix Group. I don't recommend that route, and this is why. By the time you do the 50-50 split with us, which I think that's the best, which we'll do the numbers, then if we can do it for $5.50, but you're gonna send it to them and they're gonna take 30% of your 50%. So you're cutting down your profit even more. So it kind of depends on how you guys would want to run the operations.
Okay.
So it's something to think about.
Commander Garcia, is this something you envision to use in Visitacion, and would it capture like double parking or? No.
No, this would not capture. We talked about that, and it would
So
not
it's
capture that.
not a full officer, it's like a half officer.
Yeah, it would address parking issues,
Yeah.
not, yeah.
Got
It would, we talked about this earlier in the week. I have cities that have tried double parking, and I can tell you they won't give me my devices back. They, which we could try it. If you get enough devices, hey, why not? Let's just put it in. It doesn't cost you anything. But I have cities in Texas, especially the border towns, they've got $15 citations. They put a sign up that says you'll get a ticket. If you put a sign up with my device, it has absolutely stopped the problem, but then we're not getting anything back. Like, these devices are $2,500 for us for the investment part of it. I'm desperately trying to get them back or get them to move them. It's just really hard to catch a double parked car because if, like, let's just say if you have a car here, but then you got one double parked, depending on the angle, we've had to move some of them several times to make sure we have the right angle. And if they're not parked correctly in reference to the device, which is easy with the car right next to it, we're not always capturing it. But it's a scare tactic as well. I mean, it's my virtual police officer. So it works. I just can't promise the productivity.
So how about the cases where they have a permit to be parked there longer than 2 hours? Because, like Visitacion is a mixed use. It's residents and business. So some of the residents are going to be able to park longer. So will they capture that, the permit, or?
Yes, they do permit parking as well. And so does the lot technology. Are you capable of getting a list of all the license plates or all the registered permits? Because we would just program them into the system.
That'll be a question
So through the
for
chair, we don't
Commander
have
Garcia.
any such permits on Visitation Avenue, but I think where Mr. Cabrera is going, the situations we have, and I'm pretty certain this company can adapt to it, is you can set the hours of enforcement. So for instance, because Visitation's a business quarter, you can say it's 2-hour parking from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Beyond that, it's unlimited. And so what this is a piece of the suite of many things that you can recommend to council. So later on, we're going to talk about the possibility of putting in some transportation network company parking for the restaurants. So you could say that, okay, we want to put in 2 parking spaces between, call it Melissa's and Lucky House, and we want it to be 10-minute parking only from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. or some hour. And this device can do that, and then it can do in other hours. It's in other time periods, it's 2 hours. And once it's dark and residents want to sleep, we don't bother you again until 6 a.m. the next morning. Did I say it right, Stephanie?
You did.
Okay,
You
thank
did. I actually just did a massive pilot in Texas for a city, the one with 8 blocks. We put in 5 sticks in time parking, and it captured over around 286 violations in 4 weeks. Just 5. 2-hour parking. I can't even tell you how many meetings I've had on Zoom to perfect the presentation because they wanted, 7 days a week, 24 hours. Then they wanted 5 days a week, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Then they wanted a bar graph of the repeat, how many people were repeat violators. But yeah, I mean, we can pull all of that, all the data. I mean, everything. We have a system. When it collects the data, we can pull whatever data you want. And you can absolutely, it's programmable by times, days.
So is it Wi-Fi compatible? So that's how you talk to them, via Wi-Fi?
Yes. So the violations come through, which we'll get to in a second, but they come through every 24 hours. So if you illegally or you stayed over your 2-hour limit by midnight, that violation's triggering straight to the police department. And then we'll kind of get into the software, the platform. Do you guys have any questions on this, the collection model?
I have one more question. I guess, so the agreed upon number of violations, that's like total number of violations across all the units? And then
Per unit.
per unit. Do you have a minimum number of units? And like, what does sort of the smaller towns say you work with?
You could say, Stacey, I want 5, I want 500. There's no limit. I was telling the commander that I always tell a city, I can tell you nobody's ever shipped these back. We came out with the solar panel. We almost went bankrupt during COVID because nobody was illegally parking. Nobody was going anywhere. They were hardwired. During that time, my CEO had revamped the product and came out with the solar panel. Since then, we have, just last year, we entered into 16 new states. And then what was your original question? So I'm like going off track here.
Just sort of smaller towns, like, yeah, I guess how small?
Yes.
Is
Yeah.
there a
So
number
no
of-
one's
is there
ever
a
shipped them
minimum?
back. No one's ever shipped them back. All of our cities, they're like, oh, we're going to start with 10. We're going to be kind of conservative with it. I have cities come back after 10 and order 50. I have a city up in Massachusetts that's on their fourth order, their fourth increment. They just keep adding because they start to realize, that we have so much data at this point in all these locations that I listed. I mean, even school zones. We've got 17 school zones up in one city, and they just keep ordering. They're so efficient. And then they start to notice all these other areas. You never have to look back. And then they start to notice all the other problems they don't want to deal with. So yes, you could order 5 for Brisbane. You could order 15. It's completely up to you. Our engineer is very picky with where we put them. He scares me. He's very, I don't know. But he will go in, look at your city, turn in your locations. I just need dropped pens. He will do full renderings, and he's going to tell you whether he likes it or not. Because we fully invest in the city, again, you put 10 in, we're looking at $25,000 on my end. We have to make sure they're going to be productive. They're hot spots. And then at the same time, they're going to fix the problem.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah, so I guess, how does it work, like, over time? Let's say we have a community that's very compliant, so after a couple citations, then people start, like, really abiding by that. Then how does the economic model work then? Let's say if no one is violating from that point forward.
Well, so that's what the contract, that's what it sets up there. MPS may request relocation or return.
Okay.
The city in Texas that won't give them back right now, I don't know if we've seen a violation in 3 months and it's still there. Like, and then we have cities on the coast that they go dead for 3 months. They're tourist cities. We're very flexible with that. And then it depends on your citation rate. Like, what is your citation rate? I don't think that's something that we covered.
We're at $40 at this time.
You're at $40. So we would look at your volumes, your citation rate. It's all negotiable. If it came to that, to where you love the space and it just died out all of a sudden, we would probably renegotiate and come up with something that worked for both of us. Because there's months in the year where a lot of these locations will pick up a ton more traffic and make a lot more money, and then there might be some months where they don't make any. But I know that my CEO is not going to move them if he knows there's a cycle, especially once we get the investment paid off.
And is something to that effect in the contract that you create with the city so that it can be renegotiated?
Yeah, well, it's not in there currently, but these are things that when I meet with the city, I always make notes on this stuff so that when we get down to that point, I always say, hey, remember when we talked about this? This was important to you, and we'll make sure it's added in. The whole contract, all contracts are negotiable. So we send you the basic one. I'm going to tell you up front what I suggest, because I think we have 2 contracts, one for the 50-50 revenue share, one for the 60-40 model. I always just send the 50-50 unless we break down the numbers and you want to go the other route. And then outside of that, yeah, the commander and I would make sure, I always make sure that we don't leave anything out that's you want to negotiate.
Great. Anyone else have any questions for Stacy on this slide?
Yeah, every city's different across, some of them just sign it, you'd be surprised. Some just sign it and say, run with it. And then you've got some that we come back with 20 red lines. So it just depends. It's all political. Okay, next slide. You like my picture, Mario? There's an inside joke between us when I was putting this together. Okay, how our platform works. Let's get into the software. Okay, so our platform is called CenturyLink. You are provided with as many logins as you would like. Typically, somebody is tasked from the city we recommend they log in every single morning and go through the violations from the day before. They're either going to approve them or deny them or void them out. It looks like a bank account. It's pretty plain and simple. Only you're not charges, they're violations. It's going to pull the reading of the license plate, the timestamp, you can see the time the violation occurred, and this is payment. It's not the payment, but it's going to give you the estimated time. That's where you can quickly see how many stayed over the 2-hour mark or under. The device ID. This particular example, I don't think the reason it would say fire hydrant, red zone, 2-hour parking, whatever it is, it's completely customized by the city and device. Next slide. When you click on each violation, this is what, Raymond, I think what you were asking, this is what you're going to see. The exact address, device, the time they got there, the time they left, the exact duration. You're going to see, we can program in what the citation rate is. You can see that, what the reason is. And then you're gonna see all the timestamps, all the pictures. And then if you click on, which this is just a PowerPoint, but you're able to click on the actual picture and it's gonna show you every 90 seconds the picture of that car till it drives away. So you have more evidence than you could possibly need to where nobody could ever fight these tickets. They're very hard to fight in court.
I guess more of my question was, as someone, let's say I'm the person parking in that spot and even being aware that, there's a very strict enforcement of this where you have like 100% violation rate if you're, 30 seconds over. So is there any visual indicator to the parker that like the clock has started and how much time they have?
No, there's not. But that's the same as what they have now. They just know they're not being enforced by an actual officer. Typically, if I was to park in 2-hour parking and I saw this puppy, I would know that I better be out of here I would look at my watch to be out of
Yeah, I guess I'm wondering, since this is like a new concept or a new model of enforcement, that there may need to be like an education program, perhaps like a grace period or something like that, so that we don't have, a lot of negative sentiment, I guess, in the city.
Yes. So a lot of my cities will do, like I know Sierra Madre, I think they're doing it next week. They're doing community outreach. They're putting it on their social media. They're already preparing them before the install comes because they're covering the whole town. What you can do, I have cities put up a sign that says, you are being watched. This is an enforcement device. You could paint them. So what we're recommending to a lot of cities, if you're using them for timed parking, so on your 2-hour spots, I forget the street name, if you have them there, you could put you could put a logo down it, 2-hour parking enforcement. If it's no parking zone, a fire hydrant, you could paint those red so they can distinguish the difference. And that says no parking on it. So they can kind of tell because they look alike, they just do different things. They're programmed differently. That's an option. A lot of times before it rolls out, like even my pilots, they put it out in the media to educate the public. It was really funny. I had a city, we installed them a day before they were able to get it out on Facebook, and people, it was like an uproar. It was just a pilot, but the comments were hilarious. They were like, what is this, like a urinal? We put our cigarettes out on it. So I would absolutely recommend some type of community outreach.
And committee member, we would also, and I can talk to Stacy about this as well, most of our programs, we do a warning period. And I'm sure we can just do, like I said, we would review these and we would just say, okay, you're still within a warning period. We'd send you out a warning saying the next one would be a ticket. So we would do a vigorous outreach along with the warnings as well, just to educate the public.
Yes, that's a good idea. We can do a 30-day warning period. My CEO is even willing to go as far as if you guys have a way to, like a mailing list of everybody in your community, he's even willing to pay for a mailer to go out to everybody in the community with information on the device.
That'd be great, because what would be negotiated in the contract? Like if there's a 30-day, warning period,
Yes.
You're not getting paid, right?
Yes.
And there might be a lot of violations, but
Yes. Will you write down, since I don't have pen and piece of paper,
Yeah.
what she's talking about in the contract that we need to
Yes,
notate?
absolutely.
Okay. I just want to make sure nothing gets missed if we get that far.
So you mentioned, is this going to get superseded by drones, or is it going to be complementary with drones? And how will
Oh, I'm
those
so
drones
excited for
work?
the drone. Okay, yes, so, I know, those are supposed to be released in Q4. Any technology that we put in your city, the contract does state, or even if you don't hit the violation, the agreed upon number, we take them back at no cost. We cover the shipping. If we upgrade our technology and you want to upgrade it to whatever we have, there's no cost to take them out and switch to the next best thing. I don't know much about the drone that's coming out. I don't know who operates it. I just know that we just publicly released that it's coming out in Q4, which is going to be great for cities that, have, like Sierra Madre is looking at putting these all down their streets unless we can use the lot technology. But once you have the drone, yeah, we can take them out and switch. I just don't know the pricing model. I don't know much. I just know it's coming, and it's a game changer for us.
technically, what's the length? Like you could set, Randy's talked about 15-minute, 10-minute parking, 2-hour parking. Could it be 3-day parking? Because that's one of the, local ordinances that you can't park for more than 3 days.
This device, we typically cap at 2 hours. And even then, it depends on the city and the citation rate. If I have a city that has $15 tickets and you're at 2 hours, there's no way we're going to get enough violations to probably, because they get down to where they only get 1 ticket a day. If Sierra Madre gets one ticket a day, it's a $100 ticket. If I have another city that only has $15 tickets, we have to make sure it financially makes sense for us as we do the investment. So we typically go up to 2 hours, depending on the city, the location, the tourism, the traffic that comes through. That's where we kind of have to dig into what your needs are. The lot, I would absolutely recommend the lot technology with just the cameras on the entrance and exits. I mean, that's a no-brainer. The other spots, I would definitely, how many spots are there? Is it just 6, right? So there's only 6 spots of 2-hour parking. On the,
Well, so,
The whole street is 2-hour parking.
oh, the whole
street is
street?
2-hour
That
parking
whole
for
street's
now.
2-hour parking.
right,
Yeah.
right, and let's be clear, this is, because, again, this is just a suite of options available for the committee to recommend to the council. So, in a number of minutes here, when Stacy's done, we're gonna talk about some of the other possibilities that you could recommend. So, if you wanted to recommend the TNC spots, and you wanted to say, and we should just put them in there, you could do that. If you want to look at one way to avoid the double parking in the street is to enhance and add in some more loading zones. And you say, well, let's put the loading zones in and let's enforce those, because that's the problem that some of the delivery trucks have. Yes, because they're trying to get to the loading zone and the loading zone has got a passenger car there. So you could do it in that fashion. So this is plug and play, and the possibility of turning the former teen center into a parking space is just one more thing you could look at. You may or may not recommend that to council, and so you may or may not need the parking lot technology that Stephanie's talking about.
Yeah, this is where a lot of cities will come in and say, hey, yeah, we're gonna do these, and then they wanna do the whole street, and they change it to the lot, and then they find their loading zones. So like what you're saying, they're gonna add locations. Like that's what happened with Sierra Madre is they wanted 32 sticks, the fires happened, then their streets got covered with mud. Then I get a call from the chief and he says, hey, I want 150. I'm like, wait, you want what? So we went into council, we only had the installation plan for 32. I go back on July 8th and now they want like 200. Because they said there was a woman on council, there's a Starbucks, there's a fire hydrant. So now we're trying to get all these additional locations so we can do it at one time. So that's definitely something if you guys are interested. I would like to get all the drop pins, all the locations, but not just say, okay, this works for all of it. I like to put the best technology in for the fit. Like we're gonna study it and tell you what to do with it. And then you can always add locations later.
What's the cost for the, like you guys doing the analysis for the data on the platform and whatnot? Is there a cost for that?
There's no cost. That 50%, which again, I go 50-50, that 50% is gonna cover 100% of everything you see. There's, and I've got plenty of references to attest that. No one's ever shipped them back. That 50-50, and then if you have us mail the tickets, call it $5 to $7.31. There are 0 costs, nothing. No damage, maintenance, vandalism, no penalties, nothing.
And how many people are managing that? So like if we have a meeting 2 months after these get installed, for example, and we say to Commander Garcia, we want to run a report on what's actually happening, is someone accessible with the company to do that?
Yes,
In a
you
timely
have
fashion?
a dedicated customer sales rep.
Great.
And then I always stay in touch with my cities because it takes 2 years to get embedded. So I have a good relationship. I'm not going anywhere. But yeah, my customer service rep that works on my stuff, I talk to her almost daily. She used to sell the product. She just got kind of burnt out. She's in her 60s. She now flies out, sees cities, continues to build the relationship, continues to add locations as she asks. She's really good at asking them questions on, just asking them, hey, is this working to your, what you expected? Would you want to move it? Like she watches the numbers so closely, and she's a caretaker. Yeah, but yeah, you would have a dedicated rep.
Anyone else have questions on this slide?
No? Okay, next slide. Okay, so if we were to mail your tickets, or if we do, or Data Ticket does, or you want to have somebody within the city do it, from our platform, you print an evidence form. And our platform can mimic the exact citation that you have today. So this is an example of Somerville, Massachusetts. It's what their ticket looks like. We would print out both of them. Or actually, if we mail your tickets, we have a third party, because we're not legal, like nobody can get access to the registered vehicle information, the person. That information's never housed in our system as well. So that's important, because I have a lot of cities ask me what data is in there, how long is it stored. We never see where the tickets are going. It's very, very private. We have to get an authorization form from your PD if we are to mail your tickets for them to be able to pull that. It kind of works like the DMV. They are able to print the evidence form and the ticket every notification that goes out, that form will be in there. So if you get, if the, you know, an individual gets the ticket, there's no question what they got it for. They're going to see a picture of their vehicle and all the information we just covered. And then the officer that approved it. So if we were to move forward, I'm going to use the commander as an example. Literally, after we put them in and get the system up and running, somebody from your team would just go in and approve or void, and we take care of the rest and mail you a check. Okay, next slide. Okay, somebody asked about install. I forget which one of you. Super easy. A couple of bolts go into the sidewalk. I think it's 3 bolts, and then some of those I think are, it was around 3, but I think some of them are up the other way. The device goes mounted on top of that, and there's an on switch. So there's no programming. They're already pre-programmed. They've got GPS in them, and they're already pre-programmed in our system by the device number that connect. And as far as service, we go through Verizon, AT&T, depending on who has the strongest service here. Okay, all right. We're getting close to the end. So this is kind of an overview of the benefits. We talked about Vision Zero. Vision Zero locations are listed: fire lanes, crosswalks, emergency zones, school zones is not on there. That's been a really big one. 24/7 enhanced enforcement, or my favorite terminology, and all my PDs like to see it as a force multiplier. Reduces violations. Absolutely does. You're going to be blown away at how fast we can get compliance or fix the problem. As long as you're writing citations and you're consistent, that's how you change behavior. If you're only writing tickets, you know, citations, monitoring a day here, a day there, and then you're short an officer, when people think they can get away with it, they're going to risk it. So that completely takes care of that. Traffic flow. I don't know if we didn't talk about bus lanes, bike lanes, but we did talk loading zones and double parking. Again, double parking, I'm not too keen on that one, but we'll test it out, or let my engineer decide. He's going to tell you if he's willing to do it or not, depending on the shape of the sidewalk, and how we could position it correctly. Revenue generating, I typically don't cover that very much unless a city brings it up, but it is increased revenue based on the number of citations coming in that you're not currently writing. Eco and budget friendly. So solar powered, we cover all the costs, take it back at no cost, and yeah, it's eco friendly. And data driven decisions, excuse me. We are able to run KPI reports every single month or by the week whenever you ask for them. I do this for every pilot. Every city gets them every single month, and you're going to be able to see how your violations skyrocket, and then it is a slow climb down. And we'll be able to pull what your revenue is, how that's changed, how we've reduced behavior. You know, we have some cities that come in. There was one in, one of my favorite examples. We had a guy basically force them to put him in because he grew up there, Gainesville, Georgia. He picked the 10 locations and said, hey, I grew up here, just trust me. And they're like, we don't have a problem with parking. They put in 10 sticks. It issued over like almost 500 tickets. Like they had no idea. It took about 2 or 3 months and it decreased by 50%. And then after that, I think today they're only writing like 75 tickets. So all that data, you know, you can continue to change your locations, plan, number of devices based on the data that comes out of it. Okay. Next slide. Let's see what we got next. This is the lot technology. I'm not going to dive into it for time's sake, but it's going to kind of explain how, so this is used for like paid parking lots, and we use it for timed parking lots like you have, that one lot that you want to convert. So you can do it for free parking, hits you with the violation after 2 hours, or I'm working with a huge soccer complex in San Bernardino right now that has like 450 spots, and they're going to pay as they come in. If they don't pay, it's going to issue a violation is within so many minutes after a grace period. So the same thing, it kind of does multiple things. Next slide. Okay, that's my card. Okay, that's it.
So if they put a bag, they will block out the camera, right?
Yeah, I get that in a lot of college towns. Yes, the college kids like to do that. We typically know when a device is down when we don't see violations coming in, because you're going to have patterns, and if we don't see the pattern, my inside girl she's watches things very closely. So if we notice, if you don't catch it as they're going through and say, hey, I haven't seen device, 501 like activate in a while, That or it's going to send it, it's actually going to send a blank, you'll see a black screen in the pictures. So at that point, we're going to contact you, tell you something's up with it, go check it out. Or if you notice that it's down, you give us a call. And I mean, we have a team that travels across the United States, multiple teams, and then we have contracted teams that we can get somebody out within a day or two.
So I'm assuming you probably have a matrix where it says this technology saves you this much if you were to use, police officers, or if you were to use the conventional, pay ticket stuff. Do you have that type of data or no?
So again, it depends on the city and what your salaries are and how many officers you're short and how many officers you'd be looking to hire. We'd have to take that into consideration. But then it's kind of hard because you'd have to estimate after you paid to hire them, how many hours are they working? How many tickets would they write a day? I mean, you could look at your current data, like how many parking enforcement officers you have out today and how many tickets on average are they writing. If they're not enforcing this area, what I've seen is we'll come in and write 15 to 20 times the tickets the first month. I mean, it's pretty substantial. That's kind of hard to compare, but what I can tell you what we can do is if you were to put in the devices and what we discussed, I can give you an estimated revenue with the commander's help, or like estimated, which, 50%, the cost of 50% based on tickets. We can estimate the number of tickets, and then we can kind of look at if you needed 5 enforcement officers, what would the salaries would be? We could add that up, plus, what you would be taking out from data ticket, and we could kind of compare the numbers. Like I would be able to put together some rough estimates based on a little bit of detail that I'd have to gather.
I think
But they're estimates.
I think we will need that data for the council. They're very big on, cost analysis, and most likely they're going to compare it with other options as well.
Okay, yes, no, absolutely. If he can supply me with a couple of details, I can put together, again, they're estimates. But I do know my technology, and I do have data across the United States at this point in every single one of those locations. So if I have a ticket price, and we can kind of talk about how many violators he thinks he'd have a day, I can absolutely put a chart together. Yeah, Sierra Madre's, we put one together for them, and after costs, I mean, I don't even know if I want to tell you, they were looking at like 1.4 million in revenue based on the number of devices and 1 ticket a day with 50% taken out and us mailing tickets. And that, I mean, this is not even comparable to hiring officers. Just
I don't think we'll raise that much money, but.
well, they have $100 tickets, but they just to show the productivity. I can also tell you this too: the fact that we are willing to upfront the entire investment. I mean, you have to think we're growing so fast. I mean, my CEOs, we're having to raise more money because we can't even fill the orders at this point. It's so fast. But that is how confident we are in the productivity of the device. We know we're going to make it back because this puppy doesn't move. It catches 24/7, every violator. So we know we're going to make it back. We're pretty confident.
I guess I was just trying to think through. It's almost like there's different incentives, right? I think from your company's perspective, like more violations, right? There's more profitability.
It's tough because we like violations.
Yeah, right. And we're a
and
small
we gotta
town.
Fix the problem too.
We want to be friendly. We want others to come into town, right, and have a positive experience. So I just think, like, there's these recurring violations that it makes me wonder, is it because of lack of awareness of it, or do we leave a bad taste in people's mouths, by interacting with this new type of technology? So I'm just trying to wrap my head around, where's the happy medium
The
for
medium.
this over time? Yeah.
So I would definitely, if that's the case, if you guys are concerned, I would definitely start with your hotspots. Start out slow. Don't put them in every hotspot. Start with your biggest problem areas. Let the device prove itself. Let the data prove itself. Let us prove ourselves that we can mail tickets, collections, and you start seeing a check every month. That gives the city or the public a little bit of time to kind of get used to it. They see them. They're going to know what they are. And then you can slowly add them in increments like everybody else. So instead of covering the whole city, just kind of ease them into it and start with those problem areas.
Okay. And then do you have anything in your pipeline where, just like meters today, I imagine part of the revenue model is when people have to pay for parking, there's a revenue stream through that. Like, do you have anything in your pipeline where perhaps you'd be compensated through just parking fees rather than violations?
Yes. So this same device can be programmed with a QR code. They're also used as parking meters.
Okay, great,
Yes,
okay.
they are.
Okay.
I have a lot of cities right now that they're doing the same thing. They're like, hey, do we charge for parking, or do we keep 2-hour free parking? I can tell you 10 out of 10 times they go with the 2-hour free parking. If you're not doing any enforcement and you're gonna shock them with a device all of a sudden, the last thing you wanna do is put a QR code out. So when Granny comes down the street and she has to pay every time, she's not gonna be very happy. You're gonna have the public more, and I mean, you can tell me if you disagree, but I feel like, and all my cities have agreed, they're starting with this. You can always turn this thing on to do that and put the QR code. But imagine if you have a whole block of time parking that's free, how frustrating it would be every time you go, you got to scan the QR code and pay to go to the grocery store or to the coffee shop or whatever the case may be. At least they have a chance to follow the rules, the law, and go under 2 hours and not have to deal with the hassle. But it can do that. This device, it is a solar panel parking meter. It's programmed a little bit differently. It comes with a sign, a QR code. They scan it to pay. It does the exact same thing. And it's a parking meter that can be taken out. It's not permanent.
Anybody else have questions, comments, Paul?
Okay.
Thank you, Stacy. I was curious, you mentioned that you have a maintenance team that comes out and maintains them.
Mhm.
So you said it has a 30-day life on the lithium battery,
90-day.
90-day?
Yeah.
And what about underneath the shade of trees?
So typically, God, there was a city the other day. I don't think it was you guys. No, I don't know. It's somebody in California. They have a completely shaded area, and they asked if they could switch the battery out, which we approved. That's an option. Does it get any sun if it's shaded?
Oh, we have a lot of street trees in the area that would be 2-hour parking, so I was curious about,
Yeah. So it takes 30 minutes to charge it for 90 days. So if it can get at least 30 minutes probably every month or so, you're pretty set. It just depends on, where the sun sets, and
so that's something that you do or the city would be doing?
we've offered to switch the battery out. I
Okay.
can't think of the city. I'm sorry, all my cities start to run together, but there is a city in California that has a completely shaded area that wants to switch the battery out, and my CEO approved of switching the battery out for them.
Okay, and you also mentioned vandalism. What about theft?
You're 100% covered, but let's hope that doesn't happen.
They're 100% covered?
They're 100% covered.
Okay.
Now, if you put it in a place where it gets stolen 2 or 3 times, we're probably going to tell you, Paul, that you can't put it back there.
Okay. And are you working on speed cameras? Like we have the wireless license plate readers?
Yep, we only do all things parking.
Okay.
Yeah, we kind of stick to, we're about to own the parking world. We, a lot of the lot technology right now in the United States, we have 42 patents and we're adding continuously. We just won a bunch of lawsuits to pretty much sue everyone that's infringing on our patents. We're sticking to parking. And the drone thing, I think we're gonna be the only ones that came out with the drone, unless they infringe. But yeah, speeding's not my thing. Just park.
So you have no competitors, is that what you're saying?
We have 0 competitors.
Okay.
So if you wanted to, any state in the United States, if you wanted to come in and enforce 2-hour free parking, there's nowhere else to go. We have the only device. Hopefully, we're trying to get this thing to where it's less discreet. We're constantly upgrading it. Our patents are good for like 14 years, so we won't have competitors for a very long time. But the fact that it's cost-free, risk-free, we are fully liable, you have nothing to lose. And nobody's ever shipped them back, even though we've wanted them back. So, do you have any other questions, Paul?
No, thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
How long have you been in business for? How many years?
Did I do a good job or a bad job?
No, curious.
Oh.
No one shipped them back. I was curious how
Like
long
you're
you guys
scared.
have been in operation if no one shipped them back
I was
yet.
doing medical billing software. I was a freight broker for a long time, and then
the
I
devices. I
Huh?
mean, like
I mean
the
devices. I'm
company-
like, how do I get this? Then I did this for 2.5 years. I was given 2 states that nobody was able to implement into, Texas and California. They worked on Texas for 10 years. Nobody wanted to touch California. They gave me both of them. It takes 2 years to get in, and Texas is already like dominoes for me. California, I've got 4 of you guys moving at the same time, with contracts already signed. So as far as sticks in the ground that I have, between the two states, but Sierra Madre hasn't installed yet. I would say by the end of the year in California, I'll probably have 500 spots.
Sounds like MPS has been in business for over 10 years.
We've been in business since 2012, but these were hardwired. They were hardwired, and then COVID hit. And so when we almost went bankrupt, we revamped it to solar panel, made it cost-free, risk-free, cheaper for us to install so we could take on all the costs, no risk for the city. And all of a sudden, we can't keep up. But the hardest part is getting into a state. So, well, it'd probably be more like 1,500 spots. And that's not including the rest of my lots that I haven't done, because there's other people that do lots in the state of California. And the state of Texas, I'll probably have 300 to 400 spots that I've done by myself. And I have the state of Texas by myself, so. Just me.
Anyone else have any questions or comments?
That's it? Okay.
Uh,
Hopefully I did okay.
Great. Thank you.
right.
Appreciate it, Stacy.
Thank you.
Okay, am I free to go? Or do you want me to stay for the rest?
Yeah, I think you're free to go unless Karen, Commander Garcia, Randy have any questions? Chris, do you have any questions?
Chris had public comment, which I read earlier. I did read your public comment. Everyone here heard it, but if you want to elaborate on it some more, now's a good time since you're here. Oh yeah, sure, of course, yeah.
Yeah, the Zoom didn't start until 6 minutes in, so I missed the first part. So if I ask questions that have been answered, I apologize. It sounds like this depends on license plate presence back and front of the car. And I don't know if you guys have been watching, there's a gentleman in New York who loves to record the many ways that people manage to obscure their license plate information. And so I'm wondering about that. I'm wondering about electrical tape that people might just keep in their car and handily put on the lens of the camera as they park and leave it there. What if they're missing one of the plates in the parking lot? That's where I was concerned about, back and front of the plates. And what about reparks? What if someone has parked in one of the spots and before their 2 hours is up, they'd move to another spot on the street? How is that? I don't know how we handle that. I also wanted to note that our PD tends to be pretty compassionate. And so I suspect that there are a lot of tickets that actually don't get issued. I'm wondering if we have any statistics about that, where someone darts out of the beauty shop and says, wait a minute, I'd like to not get a ticket. In terms of saving money, because you would not need officers doing the enforcement, keep in mind that officers on the street provide a lot of other services. I don't know if anyone noticed, but I happened to post a photograph of two of the officers who were out on patrol in front of Mamma Mia. And I was astonished. I now have more than 100 likes on that post. I've never gotten more than 24 or so. So people really appreciate the notion of the police officers being on the street. And when you do put these in, does this result in parking pressure elsewhere that you hadn't anticipated? Service level agreements, when it comes to repairs, servicing, vandalism, you had asked about getting a report. What are the service level agreements in terms of turnaround on all of those things? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Anybody else have questions or comments?
Could we get an answer to the license plate question? I am curious about that one. For the front and back plates, that
Can you come up to the microphone, Stacy? Thanks.
So I think Teslas are very popular in California. They don't have front license plates. I get this question all the time. Unfortunately, those we cannot, there's no way to capture the back of the plate, depending on where we have the device, unless you had a parking spot and you had it from both ends. When the drone comes out, that's going to be a different case. But to answer your question, don't take your front plate off, ma'am.
And for the parking lot, is that also the parking lot cameras? Is that the similar situation, or could you just put two cameras and tag both of them?
So when they pull into the lot, I believe, let me double check on that, but I believe it's gonna capture front and back, whether they come out the front or the back. It's gonna capture both sides. So that's a little bit different.
And I think you answered Chris's question about like someone carrying electrical tape. You would notice that there wouldn't be any tickets being issued.
Yeah, that's a big thing in San Bernardino, apparently, where you can buy something on Amazon and you can bypass tolls and all kinds of, I even looked it up. I was like, that's genius. Yes, supposedly they don't work all the time. So if somebody, I think this lady's trying to avoid tickets. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just joking. No, they're all really good questions. Yeah, I mean, if they happen to have something on their license plate, I mean, I don't know what the percentage is that people do that in California, but that would be the one difference between having an officer on site to issue the citation. One of the things in California that I get a lot to is the officers are attacked, or I've heard some even worse stories where people get really mad about citations. I guess they get aggressive here. It protects your officers as well because it takes them off site. Did you have any other questions that I can answer? Okay, you did great. Okay.
Madam Chair and committee, in regards to how it captures the front license plate and the back license plate, like Stacy said, I think to begin with, I think we would naturally hit hotspots, but we would also work with Stacy and her engineers that if we can place these so it hits back plates are unnecessary, absolutely necessary. There's no way to get it. So we probably wouldn't recommend them too much for front-facing pull-ins, but like your parallel parking on Visitacion, if we wanted to create that as a time parking so that it could create a rotating available spot, that would be perfect because they could situate them so that as they pull in, it would hit the back plate. In regards to someone putting covers on them, so our LPRs now into our flock automated license plates, we constantly look at the system, and if we're seeing that images are not getting caught, we will always go out, troubleshoot them. We would do the same thing with this platform here. We would look at them daily. If we were to choose that, we would look at the platform to see issue them or not. And then we would say, hey, why is there two of them and the third one is not registering? And then we would lodge a ticket or go out there and look at them as well. So, yeah, go ahead.
If you have a hotspot that you really want to try the device in, that's where you can always put it in, collect the data. And if you notice you're only getting, because you're going to see all the vehicles coming in without license plates on the front. If you're getting, 85% that don't have the license plate and you want to move it, you always can. But if it's a hotspot, I would always recommend trying it if it's something that's important. But I wouldn't just assume not to put it because they pull in, you know what I'm saying? Like pull in with the front plate. You could always try it because it doesn't cost anything to move it or ship it back if it's that important. Oh, yes. So what happens when the violations come through, it's going to capture every car, whether it's a good picture or not, whether it has a license plate or not. My inside customer sales team will comb through every violation, all the pictures, and make sure it's legitimate before it even hits your system. So it's already pre-combed through to where when your officers go in, it's a quick, they can approve a violation every 30 seconds. So that's almost issuing 2 violations in 1 minute. They're all I don't want to call it trash, but all the trash violations are not in there. Yeah, so it's quick. And then we'd be able to run a report of all the ones that don't have license plates. If you do want to remove the device, we'll have the data.
Commander Garcia, does the PD have staffing capability to be reviewing this platform every day to, either prove, thumbs up the ticket or avoid it? Okay, I just didn't know if you guys had that.
I don't anticipate we're getting 200 a day, so yes, we could definitely do that.
Did you guys have the red light cameras at one point?
No, we don't have that in Brisbane.
Okay, well, the red light cameras, these are different because you can't avoid a red light. I've talked to cities that have 4,000 to 5,000 tickets a month. Parking's different. It's a conscious decision. We get faster compliance. They don't have to park. They have time to actually make a decision to illegally park. One of the things we started doing with cities that are concerned with the question you just asked, with law enforcement's approval and council approval, we are willing to approve and void tickets as well. So something to think about.
And then Commander Garcia, what would be I would imagine there would be like a set rule for there's the 30-day warning period, but then after that, is it if you're over by 10 seconds, you're getting a ticket?
Correct, yes.
Okay, I'm just,
Absolutely.
kind of feeding off what Raymond was saying, like, how gracious are we going to be in trying to balance that,
Correct. And again, with proper outreach and then the warning periods, we can I think it'd be effective.
yeah, just not trying to enrage our
Correct.
local committee. Okay.
That is something too, with all the cities that we've done this in, we're gonna recommend what we think as well, based on what we've seen in other cities. So if you have 2-hour parking, I always go to my superiors, my VPs, my CEO, say, hey, okay, this is what we're doing, this is the plan. They're questioning the grace period, what do you think? They're gonna tell me based on all the data that we have, like, based on uproars that we think they should start with this or start with that, or like we have one city that did, it was an 1.5-hour parking. They're going to increase it to 2-hour parking with no grace because we're used to 90 minutes. So we're going to give you kind of what we think is professionals and then let you decide.
Great, thanks. And then one more question for you, Randy, for not to bring in the Baylands, but yes, to bring in the Baylands because it's a bigger development. If they can create this as a parking meter, or also is there a way to kind of try to implement, if this gets approved, into that as they're building that out, like adding parking meters? That's one of the things that my big questions for the EIR was parking meters.
The city could certainly require that as part of the development on our public streets, sure.
Okay. Anyone else? No? Great. Next business is old business. I think there's none. Is that correct, Tomas?
That's correct, yep.
All right, moving on to new business.
That's the discuss proposed Visitation Avenue survey improvements. And so this was part of the packet we sent out before. And just a correction, that should say Mendocino and Visitation. It says San Bruno.
Thank you. I thought, well, it might work there too. It is school crossing, so, and it is a 4-way stop.
Yes, I guess I'll go through these. So the committee will remember that at your last meeting, we were starting to have a conversation and the committee suggested that staff come back with opportunities. And I think we probably shouldn't have used the word proposed on this because these aren't proposed. These are options that staff thinks are available for you to consider and to recommend to council for implementation. You recall the whole reason we're here is because we did a survey out in what I'm calling now the Visitation Business Corridor. And the biggest complaints that came back were lack of parking, double parking, and a feeling that it wasn't safe enough, primarily due to speeding vehicles and vehicles not following stop signs. So that's why we had the stick presentation tonight, and that's what we've got these for. So the first one that we think is a possibility at this intersection, and Tomas, thank you for correcting that. I don't remember if that was you or me that typed that. Was it me? That was me, my bad. Wow, it's definitely, my senioritis must have kicked in while I was preparing that. So this is one of the opportunities we think up at the top of the hill as you're coming down from Madhouse, we think people are starting to pick up some speed there. We think a raised intersection is an opportunity. There is a cost down there. Can you scroll down to what that is? No, it was between, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to read
It's
it.
15 and 60,000.
Yeah, between
That was
50
2017 numbers.
15 and 80, yes. So that's typical cost range. So, but it's an opportunity. It's one of the things you can consider. Why don't we just kind of go through the rest of these? Maybe you can make this smaller so you can see a whole page at a time. At least those of you with young eyes will be able to see it all, not me. And so, yeah, so the next one, we're talking about doing a proposed new loading zone. This is the loading zone next to Midtown Village. And what's highlighted in there, whoa, easy there, Tiger. What's highlighted in there is the entire red area where a large tractor trailer could park. You'll recall the gentleman from the village was here, not from the village, from Midtown was here at the last meeting, and we had the discussion with him, and he was perfectly fine with blocking that one exit that comes out at Mendocino. And so it just gives an opportunity for the trucks to park. Instead of the trucks having to park in front of the business on Visitation Avenue, it's an opportunity to create there. That is one of the things, from my perspective as a city engineer, I really like the sticks being implemented at a place like this because then we could work with the adjoining business owners on what their typical schedule is, and we could create it no parking, loading only during certain hours on certain days, and then be able to retain it for the public parking. So that's where I think this is a great place to implement. Go next slide, please. The other idea, this is, and I'm sorry, I did not bring my glasses with me tonight, so I'm struggling with reading glasses and old eyes. So this is to extend an existing loading zone on Mariposa at Visitacion. This is next to the Brisbane Inn. That's intended to get us enough room so we can get 2 different trucks in there. The only challenge we would have with that, there is some concern right now from the residents who are on Inyo about trucks turning on there. And so you'll see where you have sort of an elliptical red marker. We've done some truck turning templates on that, and we think we would probably have to restrict parking there during the same hours as we're allowing truck loading, so that if a slightly larger truck does come in here, he can swing to the left and get to the right and not impact vehicles on that street. Next one, please. Yeah, and so this is where we started talking about having the transportation network company 5 or 10 minute curbside pickups. We talked about 2 of them up at Mariposa and 2 at Monterey. So again, trying to pick those big areas where you've got people who's really coming a lot, one going uphill, one coming downhill. And the thing, again, we would probably suggest that you strongly consider implementing the sticks at a place like this, because you can focus the hours, because they're different hours. Melissa's and Lucky House have different hours than the Boba Shop and the network companies that are picking up there, because they have different hours of operation. So we could work with those businesses and get those restricted hours. And again, outside of those restricted hours, whether it be people shopping somewhere else or whether it be residents from the side streets needing to park overnight, we don't permanently take that parking away from them, but we do still support this corridor. Is there another slide? And there's one more. And yes, this is the conversation that I believe Commander Garcia has had with Stacy, as we were talking about, the possibility of you recommending that we convert the teen center. I haven't put together a cost estimate for that. It's probably one of the more costly ones that we would have to do. We'd certainly have to remove some of the existing concrete foundations that are there. We'd have to come up with a striping and an ingress and an egress pattern, work the aisles and make sure we could maximize it. But that is probably in the $50,000 to $80,000 range. It would cost some money. It's a matter of what you want to do, and this is where you could implement the. We could set up the driveways so we could end up the hardwired parking monitors at any of these locations, and then of course up and down Visitacion. It's really where you want to go with this. We don't have to put these sticks everywhere if you even want to recommend them at all, but you may want to recommend them on the entire quarter on the 2-hour spots for certain times, just to get that rotation going in there. I look forward to your discussion on it, because I think it's going to be robust. I think you really need to consider everything that's going on here, right? Because we are trying to be supportive of the businesses. We're trying to be supportive of the residents on this corridor. We're trying to be supportive of the residents that drive through this corridor from day to day. So trying to come up to the best answer of that. The best answer is probably going to be not everybody's going to be happy, unfortunately. There will be some challenges. What else did I want to say? One of the other things we've done, and I think we're still in discussion with the city attorney on, I don't believe we have an answer for you this evening, is we've asked him, hey, could we consider establishing something that looks like a Visitacion Business Avenue corridor and make it an enhanced fine corridor? We've done that before, so Tunnel Avenue and Beatty, those are the most expensive parking tickets we have in town, and that's because when Candlestick Park was in existence, people would flow over in there, and that's why those are $100 tickets there, whereas everywhere else they're $40 tickets. So we're having that conversation. Initially, it came to mind is could we do that? Let's say, for instance, we're going to put the loading zones in, and we're going to manage the loading zones with a stick product. And then to force that to happen, so now we're supposedly keeping the passenger cars out of there. That's what the stick products do. You've got the loading zones there. How do you make the trucks use it? Well, you have an enhanced fine corridor for double parking, as for instance, one of the vehicle code violations, and you make it a double fine. I don't know, you make it 100, 200, whatever the city attorney thinks is a reasonable number you could do. And so we have what I think of as a carrot and a stick approach for everybody, right? We're trying to make it so you can drive up and down that corridor. We're trying to make it so the trucks have a place to park so they can unload, and we're trying to make it so we keep the cars out of there. So that's the extent of the options we have for your robust consideration. So happy to take any conversations or just sit here like a fly on a wall and listen to your discussion on the matter.
Go ahead, Stacy.
Is that okay? As far as the double parking, since I'm not really, it just kind of depends if it's as productive or not.
We're not going to use your cameras for that, though.
Huh?
Didn't we say we're not going to use your cameras for that?
Well, what I was going to tell you though, the good thing about putting our, I was like, who said that? The good thing about putting our technology in all the other spaces is your parking enforcement officers that you do have can specifically concentrate on the double parking if we're not able to. And it's taking away all the other areas that they're not enforcing or trying to enforce. It's just too much. As far as the lot technology, I did want to throw this out there. The majority of this presentation was on the safety stick itself. You have the full pricing model. The lot technology I threw in for this one, but it was kind of an unsure thing because those are hardwired. There is a pricing model for that because they're hardwired and there's a monthly fee for each camera. It's not in there, but as we move to that, I would put that together as well. I just want to make sure I said that so it's not like I don't hide anything or, you know.
Thank you, Stacy.
Yeah, very open book.
Does anyone have any questions or comments for Randy?
So, I think your presentation run is pretty right on the money, so to speak. I know that we did a survey. Maybe Tomas, you could put the survey, and I think the consensus was that maybe we didn't hit enough of the business community in Visitacion. So I did, talk to them about a week ago. Maybe like 50% of them, the library, the leather guy, the liquor store. And my the feedback that they gave me is, it was a solid no on no parking, no paid parking. They said, that's just going to, be bad for business. And I think she was mentioning, with the little barcode and pay, all that is probably, the 2-hour thing is probably a better thing. They also say, so some of the problems, as we know, is the double parking. And then they want parking in general to be regulated, loading zones, handicap, the parking lot, especially for the employees. If they have a place to park and they're not stealing or occupying customers' parking, they could probably, have a lot over there. And they feel that it's time sensitive. So like for restaurants and some of those businesses, there's like a peak hour, So I think this technology could help with that. The other problem that they mentioned was there's definitely a residential versus business ratio, and they feel that the residential are kicking them out. It's like a lot of residents over there, so that's a concern. So that was just my feedback. That's the feedback I got with them. So having, going surgical on the space that you have available and recommending the loading zone and so forth, I think that might be a good solution for some of these problems.
Raymond, do you have anything?
I guess, I think trying to understand how much of the parking situation problem we think is from repeat, like visitors of Visitacion versus one-off Amazon delivery drivers or whatnot, or folks come to town just because the enforcement of this, I guess, I'm just trying to think through what that experience would be like if they didn't benefit from any of the education, right? Because they're not residents here, right? And so they're encountering this violation for the first time, and maybe that's okay, but just, trying to also balance the people's experience of Brisbane and not wanting to have an overly negative, impression of it. But overall, I support the use of this or piloting of it in certain, important areas, because there doesn't seem like there's that much risk to try.
So Chair, I appreciate your comments, but if I'm quiet, it's because I'm not taking these conversations as questions for the city engineer right now. I'm taking them as conversations amongst the committee. So if you have a question for me, please feel free to ask it. But I'm sitting here trying to not interrupt your conversations because it's the members of the committee that have to really sort through this. And I think Mr. Liu just brought up some great comments. I mean, there's an amazing balance you're trying to strike between fixing the problems that people are identifying and not creating other ones. So I'm going to just sit back now.
Well, I'll have some questions for you. So, Tomas, can you go back to the slides for me? So if you want to start at the top, that'd be great. Not hers. Go to the pictures that Randy put together.
Oh, the PowerPoint
Yeah.
that we threw together. Go to my mistake one first, I guess.
Passed it. Okay, so it looks like this might have been a thought study back in 2018, is that correct? And then we're now just revisiting it?
No,
to
no,
do the-
that is taken from the Institute for Transportation Engineers, and it's from their May 2018 update. So it's not our street specific. It just shows the example of how one would be built.
So it has never been, the raised intersections hasn't been considered? is that
No,
correct?
this is shiny and brand new for consideration here in Brisbane.
And the cost is probably between 30 to 75, 80,000 now,
It's, yes,
probably.
it's
Okay.
really those kind of numbers, yes.
Great. And then can you go to the next one, Tomas? Thank you. For this one, would you consider 2 to 3 safety sticks if the loading zone is implemented?
It's 65 feet. What do you think, 3? Probably 3.
Okay.
Sorry, we're having a sidebar here.
No, that's why she's here. It's great.
Because I'm assuming we'd want, for that case, we'd want one for each of the car and then say the motorcycle spot there, and then another one for the other's car, basically, for each.
Right. Right. And then when you said, Randy, that you talked to the Midtown, he was here last month, that was great. When you said blocking their, ingress egress, it's just with striping. You're not going to physically barricade it, correct?
Oh, that's correct. It would be striped and, not striped, it would be painted yellow as a loading zone, and it would be extended across the area.
Right.
It's a driveway. It's a little less than elegant when you're blocking a driveway and trying to stripe it, because people aren't used to seeing that. But there already is a vehicle code that doesn't allow you to block a driveway. So we're thinking between those things, it'll be fine.
Right, and it won't be actual blocking, so patrons of the market can still enter their parking lot right there, even during loading hours.
Right, because they would still have the driveway and visitation they could use, and even during load hours, as long as a tractor's not there,
Okay.
they can come through.
Great. Tomas, can you go to the next one for me? So on Inyo, you talked about that elliptical, potentially removing parking there, restricting parking during the hours.
Recording in progress.
Is that a concern? No? Okay. Inyo is a very narrow street, right? And there are already people parking, I think, on both sides of that street, like kind of sideway into the street, if I remember correctly. Would you also restrict parking like on Inyo right there where they're going to turn? Because even though they swing out, like, can they get through a truck trailer? Can that get through
Yes.
those cars?
There's plenty of width for it.
Okay, I just don't want to hear.
It's just the
we've got
turning
a
getting
bunch
in
of
there.
car accidents. They keep smashing into my car.
There were already trucks coming and going through there.
There are.
Right, and to my knowledge, we haven't had any of those sideswipe issues. I mean, we see the trash trucks go through there on a regular basis. So
I actually have a question on that point. So that already is a loading zone that's in the square there, just a smaller loading zone? Okay.
Oh, sorry, Mike went off. Yes, correct.
And are we thinking adding or extending that loading zone there because it's the nearest to Lucky and Mamma Mia's and Melissa's to like help with the,
Yes, it's quite a robust area, and we're trying to get a spot for more than just one truck sitting in there. So hoping if we extend it, we could probably get a tractor trailer in there and/or 2 box trucks at least. So that way, we're trying to just maximize the space where people
Okay.
can get in.
do you have a question? Yeah.
Will you consider, in terms of the loading zone, doing one first, the one by the Midtown, and then just see how that plays out, and then start adding ones?
I'd be happy to bring to council whatever recommendations this committee would have.
Okay.
If it's a phased recommendation, sure.
And then, Tomas, can you go to the next slide? So for this, these are the 5-10 minute curbside pickups, probably for the Door Dashers and the running down to get dinner for the kids or whatever it is for the families. It's probably very easy to moderate those on the west side because they're parallel, but you have the box around the 2 spots that are the angled parking on the east side. If the safety stick is used, again, to Chris's point and what I was thinking, if you don't have a front license plate, you're not getting tracked, right?
There is a plus and minus of nearly every implementation we could do here. If we don't do anything, we don't have any parking for it. If we don't put the sticks, we don't have enforcement because we don't have enough officers to do it. So yes, I mean, Chris brings up valid points that there are ways to get around everything. but I would suspect that the majority of the vehicles that are going there are going to be captured.
Right. And then I'm just wondering, you know, if I stop on the west side and I'm there and I get a ticket, I'm like, ugh, but I'm going, well, if I just go over here, I'm not going to get a ticket, right? So that
Well,
I'm just trying to,
Only in the scenario where you don't have a front license plate or if you've purchased a device from Amazon to block it.
I have never heard of that device.
Neither.
Okay. And then Tomas, can you go to the next? Is there an estimate on how many spots? I know you mentioned in your presentation that you'd work on that, like just a ballpark, maybe 8 more spots, 6 more spots?
When I did the one right across from the Brisbane Inn, I was able to squeeze in 12 or 13. And this spot, it's a little bit bigger, but it's got a different shape. So I'm gonna spitball that number, say 12 or 13.
Okay. And then would there be potential for outreach to the businesses to say, hey, your employees can, I was thinking along the lines that Christian was, that they could park in the parking lot to free up space on Visitation for the temporary parkers, whether they're eating, dining, going to the library?
I think that's something the committee should consider. Like, if the committee wants to consider recommending to the council that we recreate that into a parking space, but that we also make it a parking by permit and or restricted, that'd be perfectly okay with me. We sort of have a handshake agreement with the church up at the top of Visitation on the right-hand side before you get to Madhouse. So since the new library went in, we've had an arrangement with the pastor that the SMC, San Mateo County Library employees can use that. So we've created little parking stickers for them. And when they park up there, they put that in their windshield. But if you wanted to do something formal, there is a formal parking permit program that we use in the commercial parts of town. So on Valley Drive, have you ever been up Southfield Drive and you see trucks parked on the side of the road, and then you go further up, it's not Shenki, it's Lee Ma, which is a business that has a program, and we have parking stickers for them. We have parking stickers for people in Cypress. I think it wouldn't be hard for us to amend an ordinance or to wrap it in there. We could do that. If that's what the committee thinks is the best way to do it, is to make that so it's employee. You'd have to think about it, I believe. Do we make it employee parking only or permit parking only, Monday through Fridays through certain times, and then beyond that it's 2-hour parking? But again, I think with the technology that's available, it'd be, I don't know, it'd be simple, but I think we could do it. I think we could implement that.
Okay. And then just to follow up on Christian, on your, you know, I did meet with the business owners as well. It's not all of them, some of them similar. If you recall from last month, I think Randy, you're the one who said that handicap parking would be difficult due to the slope of the street, and we'd have to do, I mean, it could be done, but not impossible, but would do a lot of engineering and.
Sure, and for instance, if there are particular businesses that indicate they are regularly receiving, let's say, let's call it disabled persons that have mobility issues, just because that's where I think most people think of when we think of disabled parking. There are places where you could put disabled parking spaces in. You could certainly put them in over on Mariposa. You could put them on some of the side streets, you know, the first parking space that are available. We could turn that into a handicap space. The city has the capability to do that. It would be interesting to really have conversations with the people who are wheelchair bound or who have mobility issues to see how much value that provides to them. Because then once you get out, then you're on Viz, and Viz is a relatively steep street, so it gives them a place to park and get out of the vehicle. So I'd be interested in hearing from that community. We don't necessarily have advocates that speak to the city on a regular basis, but I think it's a fun idea too. I am all in favor of disabled parking. I've told people many times that I am the son of 2 parents that spent their end of days wheelchair bound with oxygen, and I happen to be very sensitive to the needs of people who have those particular disabilities, because they still get to live their life. They still get to go places the rest of us go. So if we think that makes sense, I think that's great.
Great. Karen or Randy, city manager, Mr. Dennis, sent out a email to the chairs regarding how to make requests. And I can't pull it up now, obviously, because I don't have internet, but is that something that we need to use for whatever recommendations we make tonight, or?
No, ma'am, this is part of your work plan. So I think what the city manager was trying to do was get consistency across the various committees, that if they wanted to deviate from their work plans, because typically work plans are reviewed with the liaisons from the council, and then they're approved by the full council. And I don't think he had a particular concern with a particular committee, but he just wanted to ensure that direction was coming from the council to the committees for work plan, and so that lets him maintain the supervision he needs over all of us, all the employees that work for him. So, but it doesn't apply in this case.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
Anyone else have any other question, Paul?
Sure, I was curious how we came up with this intersection traffic calming on Mendocino and Visitation, and why don't we have a 2025 cost analysis on that project as opposed to 2017? Because we don't know how much it's going to cost if we're going to recommend it to the council.
So the reason we came up with it is because the city engineer looked through the various traffic calming options that are available, and that's my recommendation as the one that's the most appropriate at this particular intersection. The reason you don't have anything more recent than 2018 is because that booklet that's pushed out by ITE is a design manual of best practices that they haven't updated since 2018. The reason I haven't updated a cost on it yet is because no one has told me that this is a project that they want to move forward on, so I haven't spent the staff resources yet to develop that.
Okay, so why did we pick that site? Or why did the engineers pick that site?
I explained that at the beginning, that I think that in the entire toolbox, I don't want to take this committee's time to go through the 30 or 40 of different opportunities that are available and explain why I think this is the best one. But this is the one that I think will best solve the problem of downhill traffic picking up speed. So that's how we ended up with it.
Okay, with that said, wouldn't, did you consider Alvarado and San Bernardino Avenue for this to be implemented instead? Because that's the actual, all 4 crosswalks are yellow for the school. And I believe that speed is more impactful on the community than the speed at Visitation and Mendocino.
So my understanding is that what this committee is reviewing right now is the visitation corridor in direct response
I
to
understand.
the survey that went out. So that's all I've looked at right now. I haven't looked at Alvarado and San Bruno. That's not what we're studying right now, Paul.
I think that's still an option, though, in the future, if we get it on our work plan, that to do something similar on other intersections.
Absolutely, Chair. I think we can move on and look at other areas, but right now, I thought I understood your work plan and what you were trying to focus on,
Yep.
so that's where I'm trying to focus.
Focusing on Visitation, got it.
If I may, Randy, we're supposed to be sending this to the council, right? Like tonight, we're going to say, yeah, we like these ideas and we'd like to send it to the council. So the cost is like the major concern.
Of the
I mean-
3 months that you had to review, this is the second month. So we're looking for your feedback on, when we talked last month, everybody was sort of like, okay, there's a lot of problems, what do we do? And we talked through some of these ideas and we got them documented to bring back. So we're looking for the committee to say, we like this one, we don't like this one, and we can refine those costs. You hadn't even seen these at this point. So Randy's point is like, I could have spent a few hours doing an engineer's estimate, but you might have said, we don't want to do that. And then why did we spend that time? But the 3 months, by next month, you really have to have a recommendation to council. If you're ready to make one tonight, even better.
So, just in general, and there is, you could shim in. So when we have presented, when we have done a proposal on the different topics, and, the visitation will be one of them, we do sort of a synthesize of everything that we spoke, and then we do more or less like a vote on it. What is it that we're going to, sort of fine tune, and then write a report and give it to council. So I think right now we're on the discovery phase, and then we just need to, think about or have it, maybe Tomas could provide us support, he has done it in the past, to put the data in a way that we could vote and then, escalate it for a formal proposal.
Yeah, I hear you, but I also think that tonight we could probably have a discussion regarding some of these, like the loading dock, or loading area, right? And I think we could probably just make a decision on whether we're gonna propose that or not. I think those decisions we can make tonight, if you're willing.
Sure, and through the chair, if I may, I think part of the conversation is that we're trying to balance our staff time. So you're certainly welcome to say, we want to send this and this and this to council. And if you feel anxious because you don't have a fine-tuned cost on it right now, you can say, and the council should, of course, consider their financial resources. That's what they're going to do anyway, right? They're going to take your recommendations. We're doing budgets tomorrow night. We will bring things to them, and I won't have a finalized budget for them either. I will have a range of budgets for them. And then they will most likely say, yes, we accept this, that, and the other. Can you go back and finalize the cost? Bring it back to us for obligation of funds. That's perfectly fine. But we're not going to fine-tune everything to the dollar before we know that it's something that the council really wants to move forward with.
I guess maybe I can chime in as well then. I do really like the idea for this particular, what's on the screen here, that loading zone. I think that, I do like that idea. I think having many different tools and toolboxes is fantastic, and I do like this stick, potentially as a piloting. I'd be curious to maybe get a sense, if we were to suggest something like that, how many of those, and is that something the council would look into, or is that something that we would consider still in terms of how to lay out, and how many of these potential sticks we'd want? But I think I'm in favor of at least piloting something like this. I do have concerns about the other INEO intersection there, and that one I'm a little bit, I think restricting parking on the other side will be challenging at the same time and sort of enforcing that. So that's something, but if trucks are already going there, I think that, this one I think we'll think a little bit more on, but I am in favor of at least moving forward some of the options or recommending them.
Great. Everybody willing to go one by one and have a discussion and or a vote on whether or not we're going to recommend them tonight? Okay. Tomas, can you start at the top, please? Any conversation you want to have regarding this? For me, I feel like we should wait on this one and kind of just consider it. I like the proposal. I like creating a raised intersection, but I'm not sure if I'm ready to commit to this one yet.
I would agree. I think the cost here is quite high, and if I were to balance something like this in the parking lot, for similar costs, I think that was something I would consider, but I would not necessarily recommend this immediately either.
I agree.
Can I ask, how much of a budget are we working with? Like if we can afford all of these, then
Why not?
I'm like, why
Yeah.
not, right? But the financial piece of it, how much do we need to bear responsibility or take into consideration with our recommendations?
Well, I appreciate your concern. It's always a fair question, especially since I've been doing nothing but working on the budget for the last week or so. Your big ticket items are the raised intersection and the modification of the parking lot. Everything else is paint, and the stick company's going to come in and do it for free. So very modest.
The stick, I have questions about the ongoing cost of the sticks, but are you saying that there is budget headroom to do these big ticket items like the parking lot, or is it either or?
It's staff headroom to do the striping. I don't know that there is any headroom right now to do the bigger projects. We haven't programmed that into a budget. It's an awkward time to do it. If we were to do it, it would have to be a supplemental obligation. I think by the time the committee's recommendations get to the council and the council looks at it, they're already going to have passed the budget. But supplemental obligations are things that happen. Mm-hmm.
And when council passed this assignment to Complete Streets, they didn't say we want it to cost X or stay under X. That they didn't give us directions. So,
So what I hear you saying is we're not really considering cost then. If our recommendation is just, we recommend doing the raised because it's, best for pedestrians, it's best for bicyclists, then we're making a recommendation to do it, and then the city council will make the assessment on whether or not it's within budget or a supplemental obligation.
I think that's fair, and I don't think any of the recommendations that we've put here fail without another one being implemented at the same time. I do think the restricted parking, if you want to go to the TNC ones, you want to do the loading zones, I think they survive much better if we have parking enforcement, if we had mostly automated parking enforcement. I think they survive better, but is it still somewhat workable without it? Yeah, but without having that stick of forcing people to not park there during the hours, I think it will be less effective. But again, this is the conversation I hear you. I'm not trying to tell you what to do here. I hear you having this conversation back and forth of, we know we've got people saying we have challenges there, but at the same time, we don't want to have the community in uproar. So it's a tough conversation for you folks to have.
Yeah, so, just to, I guess, amplify what Rand is saying, we have to have this discussion upon each other. We are that committee, and they're just here, staff, and they support us. So,
Right, so, regarding the raised intersection, what would you,
Well, I don't. To be honest, I don't think it's a money factor for me. I just don't. I guess for now, don't see it to be like the right fit of the problem. Yeah.
I guess, related to the raised, piece, I guess, yeah, are there other options, automated options, almost like, yeah, a speed stick or anything that was been identified or evaluated, to, in an automated way, monitor
The
speed?
commander's telling me no, that there isn't an automated way, but I'll let him answer.
So I know there's been a lot of talk about speed cameras, and that is part of an assembly bill that has basically, I believe, 5 or 6 cities in it, that has a beta test of 5 years. In order to get in that program now or relatively soon, we would have to get the governor's sign off on that. So I would urge the committee to wait until this program is over to see how effective it is. It seems like it's going to be effective, and I guarantee in 5 years when it's effective, whoever that company is, much like Stacy's, will blow up too, and then we will adopt it as well then too.
One comment, I think this solution maybe addresses a different problem of speeding, right? I think everything else so far we're looking at sort of parking challenges, and then speeding is definitely an issue on visitation, something we've heard over and over. So I take back my comment about, not prioritizing this one. I definitely think this is sort of another issue, and maybe this is a great solution for sort of, elevating the pedestrians as well. And getting that attention.
right, okay. Paul, anything else from you regarding the,
Not at this time, thanks.
okay. So do we want to just hold off on further discussion on the raised intersections at this point and move on to the parking enforcement?
I mean, you could call it. We could put it into a vote, and whatever members vote for yes or no, and then you take a cue, and then we move on.
All right, let's take a vote recommending the raised intersection at Mendocino and Visitacion. I don't know the answer to, can Chris have a question? I don't know.
Yeah, you
that's
can.
allowed.
Yes.
It's the
Yes.
chair's discretion on that, and just so you know, what I don't see these votes as action items that are on the agenda. These are all this is just chair advisory votes. You're just
Okay.
looking to
Yep.
try to get your committee
Yep.
to find a way, so it's all
Yep.
good. So if you want to have Ms. Fulakowski speak, that's great.
Okay, go ahead, Chris.
I actually returned from some travels and got to see raised intersections in action. And it was really impressive to see, and I can send you a video that I took of one of the locations. I have a question for Randy, which is, is there a location in town, and I'm wondering about Paul's suggestion about BES, where we could pilot this to test and see in a smaller implementation, such as the intersection in front of BES, to see if it's a reasonable, it would be less expensive potentially. It wouldn't be the raising of the entire intersection, it would just be the crosswalk, but for the width of the crosswalk rather than a speed bump. Are there other ways to be able to test this idea in town to see if it's useful to us?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. I think that will definitely be something we'll consider in the future, but right now I think our work plan is to focus on visitation. So just again, for me and for the committee, for the intersections, let's take a vote. All in favor of recommending?
I would be in favor of recommending if we could maybe also get a price. I guess would it be, how much of an ask is to get a price estimate with like today's dollars for, say, the intersection we actually want? Is that a lot of ask for, say, next time, or is that a minimal amount of effort from your side? I wouldn't want you to do all that without, if we're not very serious about this recommendation.
It's enough of an effort that I am uncomfortable telling you I have the resources to do that. I'm comfortable bringing a range of estimates to council and being responsible for that range of estimates, but I just don't have the bandwidth right now to go through that.
So, Randy, I know we're working on visitation, but it sounds like this might be an effective way of, slowing down the speed of a lot of cars in different areas. So it might not. I'm not sure how can you, if you get a cost for this, and it can be extrapolated to another street, or it's going to be a totally different ballgame, because the work that you might do for this particular space or area, it might, you have an idea if we need to implement it in the other areas that I actually think they need it more than this area.
Extrapolation of the cost once we get this one and others is certainly possible. I think the other areas in town we're talking about, honestly, just because of the steepness of visitation that makes this one so tricky, because there's a lot more of determining the topography out there, and I'm not worried so much about setting it up for the cars. I'm more worried about setting it up for the stormwater coming through there and keeping that in the gutters as we come through. That's the problem with these raised sidewalks. So it starts to get tricky. You've got to do things with your gutters. You got to do things with concrete medians. There are other parts in town, and I think I've heard the solutions at the other places, and I understand that those are other places that are great candidates for that. Those are much less challenging than this one, but this one's just tricky.
Thank you, Randy. Okay, so Darius is in favor?
In favor then.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd be in favor.
Okay, any nays for the recommending the intersection at Mendocino and Visitation?
Well, I think we're sticking to. So are you talking about this point right now?
Yeah, just asking if you are in favor of recommending a raised
Oh, I'm
intersection
not.
at Mendocino and
I'm not.
Visitation. Okay.
So I'd like to know when the council is going to be presented with this. When it comes from us, when is it going to go to the council?
I don't control that. It'd be when the city manager tells us they've got room on their agenda.
So, as a committee member, Randy, to say that my comment was anxious about the cost, that's a consideration we need to take in if we're going to present it to the council, that was the range. And I don't see how much time it's going to take to come up with that cost analysis for this. If that's an engineering thing that you do and it's associated with this. So, I'm not anxious about the cost. I'm concerned. And I'd like to know what the cost is. That's all. But you say anxious, and you're going to have to present it to the council with the cost. You're not going to say, well, I have a 2017 cost analysis and this is the range. They're going to say, well, come back to us with the 2025 cost. That's all I'm getting at. So, I know our role is we're not making any decisions, but you're the person that's making the decision. So that was my comment, was I'd like to know the cost, that's all.
I understand your comments, sir, and I think I've been quite clear in my response. Thank you.
Through the chair, I have a question. You might ask, is there a number for Paul that he's comfortable with and a number he's not comfortable with? And then you can know whether.
No,
He's in
I'm just going to
favor or
let it go
against?
because you want to know what my number is. I don't have a number. It could be $150,000, $200,000. So that's all I was getting at. But my comment is, as a committee member, I would expect the city engineer to not say that my comments are being anxious about it. That's all. I would expect a little more professionalism with your response.
Or perhaps maybe, because I'm new to this and trying to understand the obligations of the committee, right, and how we can best serve the council. So perhaps for us to if it's for us to maybe understand the provide trade-offs, right? Because otherwise, anything that moves the safety needle, I'm going to say, yeah, yeah, verily, right? But I could imagine being more effective if we were given a budget. Let's say, hey, this is like a rough allocation, and then amongst these, like, which one, what do you recommend, right? So perhaps that's some feedback, like if we could be given more information or guidance in terms of how to frame our recommendations.
So I think for the raised intersection, I think for now we're split on that. And so I think for me personally, I think I'm all in favor of it. I would just want to see more of an analysis on safety for pedestrians and bicyclists. And then, I live on Mendocino, so I don't want the mudslide coming and landing in my driveway again like it did a couple years ago. So I want to make sure that those things are all considered, and that analysis is done when we consider something of this sort, whether it's Mendocino and Visitacion or Alvarado and San Bruno or anywhere else. Tomas, can we move to the next one, please? Anyone have any additional conversation you want to have on recommending the loading zone parking in front of Midtown Market's parking lot?
I guess if we were to recommend, this would be recommending with the sticks, separately from the sticks. Is that how we're thinking about it?
In my mind, I'm thinking of the sticks as a separate, whether they go here, down Visitation, or somewhere else. I'm just thinking that's a separate item. So anyone have any other conversation regarding the loading family?
I mean, I'm in favor if you're asking that.
I will.
Okay.
Paul?
Yeah, it's a safety thing because of the double parking on Visitation, what that created, and that was a good way of alleviating that problem. So that's a good plan.
Thank you, Paul. Anyone else before we take a vote? No? Okay. So anyone in favor of recommending to the city council that we have the city engineer and his team prepare a plan for the loading zone with consideration of time frame for, residential parking outside of when the loading zones are happening? Anyone in favor?
I'd be in favor of that.
Me too.
I as well.
I do, but I do have one consideration. If that loading zone could be moved back like we do with the daylighting at the corner, I don't know if the delineation with the red means that the loading zone is going to go all the way to the corner, because that could present a problem at the crosswalk if it's all the way up to the crosswalk, all the way up to the corner.
I think we have to have it behind the daylighting, correct? Tomas and Randy? Can the loading zone be in a daylighting that's red striped? I don't think that can happen.
This is a unique case. I can look into this and get back to you, but and we actually had this question come up last time, but we'll look into that.
Thank you, Tomas. Okay, so I think we're all in favor of recommending the loading zone to the city council. So if we could make note of that and get that recommended to them. The next, thank you. Anyone have any other points they want to discuss regarding the loading zone on Mariposa at Visitation?
My only comment would be, if we could phase it out, do the other one first, and then see how that plays out, and then implement this one. Because my other, the other one has obvious needs. You have the Midtown, which is a pretty good size grocery store. Here, you might have less of that need, and then you're going to be taking away parkings and stuff.
I think what Randy and the team have proposed is that it would only be a loading during the specific loading time, and that residential parking would still be allowed in that zone outside of that. And I mean, it could be a 2-hour loading zone. It could be an hour. I don't know what the analysis is on how often they're parking, or it could be used for what I hear businesses and residents on Visitation saying is that there's those double parkers of the Door Dashers, or other delivery individuals, and they could use this because it's closer to Melissa's and Lucky House, and maybe use that as parking. And one of the things I asked about last month was, could the city create a postcard for Melissa's and Lucky House to hand out to all the Door Dashers saying, hey, please park down here at the loading area when you're coming to pick up deliveries, just as a outreach.
So do we know the times? That's the Brisbane Inn, that's the bar over there. It gets a lot of in and out traffic.
But
I mean, what times will you be, would it be available just for loading?
I guess that's something we have to probably still talk to local businesses, right? Because obviously the inn is open later in the evening. Yeah. For this solution, I would be in favor of extending the loading zone. I do have concerns about the sort of turn radius and ability for larger trucks there and ability to sort of, control that. But I do like the idea of having an additional zone where it is sort of a 10-minute or 15-minute loading or what have you. Obviously for trucks, we'd probably be longer, but for the Uber people.
And I don't think the Brisbane Inn is receiving deliveries late at night. But I haven't been in the bar industry for years, so. All right, anyone else have any comments or conversation we want to have regarding this before we take a vote for the committee? Paul? No. All right, anyone in favor of recommending adding the extended loading zone at Mariposa and Visitacion? I am.
I'm not.
Okay, Raymond?
I'm in favor.
I'm in favor.
I'm in favor of extending it, but I don't know. But I guess, is there an option to like not allow trucks of a certain length to still do this then? Or is it sort of, I guess, yeah, we would, okay. Yeah, I'd be in favor, I guess, of that we would still require no matter what the opposite parking, or is there a space where that parking does not get, the elliptical circle? Like, is that a necessity?
I think, again, that's only if it's during loading hours.
Yeah.
Or loading whatever the time is, I don't want to say hours,
Yeah.
but however long that is. And it's something that I think Randy and team will analyze to see if that's necessary, because that was the question I asked about even just trucks getting down Inyo, and if the trash trucks can do it, people don't move their cars for the trash trucks, so.
Yeah, I'm a yes as well then.
Great, I am as well, so that's more in favor than not. So let's make the recommendation to the committee that we add that extension there at Mariposa and Visitation, please. And then the TNC parking, do we want to take this each side of the street or just take it as a whole?
Won't change my answer.
Won't change your answer, okay. Any discussion on the 5 to 10 minute curbside pickup parking, adding signs for that on Visitation? Christian, any questions? Comments?
So, I don't totally understand this concept, so if I could,
I think this is just to say that where they've boxed in the 2 spots on the west side of Visitation and then the 2 spots on the east side of Visitation, there will be however long, 5-minute, 10-minute parking for pickup at the restaurants for families or whomever,
Yeah,
or just
okay.
dropping off a book at the library because it's right there. It could be anything, but it would be just for
Like-
a short duration of time. And then we would use the safety sticks to track that.
yeah, I'm in favor of that.
Okay. Paul? Any questions, comments, conversation you want to have regarding?
I like that. That would be helpful.
Okay. Let's take a vote on that for the committee. Anyone in favor of adding or recommending to the council that we add limited spots on Visitation?
I'm in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
I as well.
Great. Can we please recommend the limited parking to the city council?
On both of these, are you for the loading zones and this, are you recommending with the sticks as well?
Yeah, well, we'll get to the sticks, but yeah.
You'll get to them at the end?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep.
just
Thank you.
Spice them out.
Thank you, Randy. All right, I think last one of the Randy's presentation, the parking at the teen center. Any other conversation we want to have or questions we want to get answered regarding the potential parking lot?
So would this have a gate and also, it's not gonna have an exclusive usage? It's just gonna be, for everybody, as, especially in the weekends when they do a lot of activities in the park, they could use it too?
So I think, in my opinion, that this parking lot could be open to the whole community, 24/7. I think it should be used not just for employees that are of the businesses. I think it should be open to everybody. I think it should be used for people who are at the park, because we have that, you know, with that change that was done at the San Francisco and Visitation, so there's a need for parking for the park, and that'd be a great closer location where you could have, like I had a birthday party and lots of people come. So there's plenty of parking.
Yeah, I also quite like the idea of maybe a free parking lot with some restrictions on time, but that is sort of open for community use. So I am in favor of exploring this further. Obviously, there's costs here, but I would be very much in favor of potentially drawing out what that might look like, how many more spots we could get there, and sort of feasibility of maybe some of the tracking systems and costs there as well.
Okay, Paul?
So if this becomes parking, could it be, if there was ever another use, like possibly in the future, a teen center or something else to be put there, is that going to be okay once it's been designated as a parking lot?
I don't think it's permanently designated as a parking lot even, I mean, if we redo that, is that what you're asking, Paul, if it would be permanently be a parking lot if we made it a parking lot?
Yeah, I mean, is it going to be a permanent parking lot, or could it be used for something else in the future?
I think the answer to that is yes, and Tomas, Karen, Randy can nod your head yes, if that's correct.
That's how I understand it, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, if anything, you know, they have those metal structures that you go vertical and you could stick more cars in there. We need a parking, and this town is growing, and if you go to other downtowns or small little towns, they all have designated parking spaces.
Yeah,
That need is always going to be there.
Yeah, I guess to build on Christian's point, that's where my head was going too, is, I don't know, do we need to consider a double decker, like a multi-level parking structure, depending on where do we think this city's going, right? I don't know, just trying to.
I think for right now, even if the lot is cleaned up and it's just asphalt on it, whether later down the road it becomes a double-decker parking or anything else, I don't know if there's enough space on it for that. But I think for now, if at least we gave this space a purpose that can be used by the community instead of right now it's not being used by the community, and it might meet one of the needs or concerns that people are having on visitation, whether it's businesses or the residents, I think it would be useful to recommend to the council that we do something with it, especially if it could potentially be in the budget as a lower cost.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess, like, my position on this would be, yes, let's definitely convert into parking, but is it possible to get an evaluation of how much more it would be for a double-decker, right? When you're gonna do that, just so that, because I know sometimes those things, you need to plan ahead for that if you're gonna do that in the future. Because we could have a bigger parking shortage than we realize, and it's just being manifested on visitation. So, yeah.
True, and I think that would go to, again, not being on our work plan, so I think that would be something that we would have to use the recommendation that Mr. Dennis asked us to do if we want to, and I'm happy to put forth that we would like the staff to do an assessment on a double-decker or a different way to expand the parking at that spot. But for right now, is it possible just to get a vote on turning that parking or that space into a parking lot? Anyone?
So I'm not an engineer, but there's no way you could put a double decker there. You wouldn't have you'd use most of that lot just for the ramp if you could put a ramp into that spot. So it'd be a postage stamp parking lot.
Yeah, I also think you could get lifts. I mean, if you really wanted to get creative, I mean,
You could do this.
there are ways. I mean, it's not going to be a Serramonte beautiful 3-story parking lot garage, but there could be others.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm in favor of, definitely using that that space for parking.
Great. Anyone else in favor of using that?
Yes.
Yes. Great. Okay, so can we recommend to the city council that we would like that teen center site to be converted to a parking lot used for the community? And, if they want us to give more guidance on permitted or just open or 2-hour parking, happy to take that back and give more feedback, because I think it will be important, because we don't want to hear the same complaint we're hearing, people just park their cars and never move them. Right. All right, and then I think the last one is the safety sticks, is that right? Is there nothing else, Tomas, on Randy's
Yeah, it's the last,
presentation,
last
right?
slide,
Like,
yeah.
yep, okay. Anyone else have any questions, concerns, comments?
So, I guess we didn't cover, the handicap and also, well, the time thing, you know, it could be all over the place and maybe that would be a different, a topic for a different meeting. And I'm just gonna throw it out there, I'm not sure what can be done about this, but the other, you know, so the business community, the other concern was that they feel they're being pushed out by the resident community because there's I don't know how many apartment buildings they have built over there, and they keep building them, and the business keep disappearing, and that's the downtown. And I don't know if there's a ordinance or something that says, you know, you a ratio of 1:1. Right now it's probably 10 to 1, something like that.
Thank you, Christian. I did forget the handicap, differently abled parking. Is that something we want to recommend to the city council that they could consider or have the city engineer consider putting in space on Visitation? For me, I just think it's too steep. I think I would be more concerned of the cost of having to figure out how to level that, or would it take 2 spaces away from parking when we're already concerned about parking, number of parking?
So what's interesting from my survey, the business that raised that point was the library, and they already have a handicap parking, right?
Mhm.
And but they did mention that they could put it on the back or something, and it would be more convenient or something. I don't know.
So that would be on Monterey, is that right?
If you
that the
could
street
put
that's
the
behind?
street there, Tomas, with the
Yeah, I
library.
think that's Monterey where their back entrance is, where the
Yeah,
community
yeah.
room is. So they were asking if we could put recommend handicap differently abled
Yeah,
person.
I mean, now that I remember, I guess she had 2 points. She says that the one that is there because there's traffic and visitation, sometimes it gets awkward for, you know, for the wheelchair and all that to maneuver it. But it would be ideal to have it on the other side. And, you know, library is a public thing, and maybe if this is something that the library will cover?
I'm not sure, is that
I'm-
even possible?
I'm getting a no from staff over here, my fellow staff.
Getting a no, is that what you said, Tomas?
And they didn't
Yeah,
fund
sorry.
if they didn't fund the construction, I doubt they have funds to put in.
Oh, if the library would pay for it, got it. I'm just thinking actual on Monterey, is there even, I don't think there is, you'd have to cut away sidewalk or something to do that, right? Because you have is it Eagles on the corner there? I can't never remember. And yeah, they have, right, so they have that
Yeah, if you go to that side, yeah.
perpendicular parking, so you can't park there. All right.
It's right there. You could probably think about doing something there, but there's a driveway.
I would not be in favor of recommending this to council at the time, given that there is a space nearby there, but then it may be worth looking into if that continues to come up as a, you know,
Right.
a sore issue.
Great. Anyone else have any comments, questions, concerns about adding in a differently abled handicap parking lot spot? Paul? No? Okay. Can we take a vote on whether we're going to recommend additional handicap parking for the city council? All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Nay.
Nay for me.
Okay. Okay. So we will not be recommending additional handicap parking spots at this time. And then safety sticks. Any additional conversation you want to have or questions, concerns you want to have answered regarding recommending implementation of safety sticks to the city council?
So, I mean, in general, depends how the other items that we voted for play out because it's almost contingent to that. But if there's any other technology that we need to look at this, just to evaluate, or this is the best out there right now.
I think this is the only out there right now, which is why I asked if she had competitors, and they don't, because they own the patents on it. So I think the alternative would be recommending that the police department step up their game and hire more staff for traffic or parking enforcement, or maybe installing parking meters. All of those things would be additional costs to the city, right? So is the safety sticks a good, for now at least, step into helping with that parking enforcement on Visitacion, and it may just even serve as that, full force multiplier to deter people from double parking, and, in addition with the loading zones and things we have in addition.
Madam
Yeah,
Chair,
I mean,
if I could also jump into this, if you guys do recommend the loading zones, so the success of loading zones is to be able to get to the people and mark them right away, or at least give them a citation. Same with the time parking. In regards to officers responding to those, we would not only have to go there, mark the vehicle somehow, and tag them so we know that they haven't moved, come back in 10 minutes or 15 or 20 minutes. And by that time, we have 2 officers in the street. If we get another call that takes us out, and each call easily takes out 15 minutes, the enforcement portion of that drops off. We start the clock all over again.
Right.
So the safety sticks definitely are force multipliers in that sense, so that there's never not a cop there or not an enforcement device. So if I could just make that.
Thank you, Commander Garcia.
Yeah. So, I think, Stacy made her case pretty clear to us, but this is going to be presented to council, and I think it will help if there's like a matrix where you're explaining the advantages, if we hire additional officers, these are going to be the pros and cons, and, this is the pros, and this is why we think it's better to do this technology. I mean, to have more numbers in it.
Committee member, if I could comment on that. I know staffing has always been an issue. We are striving to always hire. We're still down 2 bodies at this point. I can tell you right off the bat, Stacy's or MPS's solution is nearly a no-brainer if you compare it to a cost of a total cost of an officer or even a parking officer. You're clearly in the 6 figures. So if you think the raised intersection was an issue, this could be a bigger issue if we have to add bodies. Safety sticks willing to come and put it in for free. We just get checks. So
Okay, yeah, so that was my question. So like the ticket patroller, people that are in those little carts, right, those are different than police officers. So you're saying that those, even those would still be
oh, absolutely.
in the hundreds of
I think
K per year or something like that?
we could have outsourced that with Laz, and that was up in near
What's
north
Laz?
of
Sorry.
Laz is a parking enforcement third party,
Okay.
and even their limited amount of hours was north of 6 figures. So we're easily gonna surpass $100,000 for that. And those are only for limited amount of hours, maybe 1 pass or 2 passes a day. And if they don't capture them that 1 pass, they're not gonna come back.
Right, but then there's some type of revenue stream from those citations, though, right? That
There
partially
are,
offsets their costs,
but
right? Is
it's
that
at $40 right now per ticket.
right? I'm sorry, what was that?
$40 per ticket. So if you figure a 6-figure officer or 6-figure parking enforcement option, $40 a ticket, depending on how many tickets we give. That's
Okay, so
where
that's still going to be. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I think that touches on one more thing I wanted to add as another recommendation is the potential increase for double parking fine and then the potential increase for the parking violation. So we'll talk about that after the safety sticks, but I think they all kind of have to go hand in hand to be more effective.
Yeah, I would be in favor. I guess, are we going to decide? I'd be in favor of, having safety sticks as part of all of these solutions. Is that how we're going to look at this versus sort of individual
Right.
parking? Yeah.
Right.
Or
I mean, yeah.
I guess I'm still trying to understand why they need to be coupled, right? Because I mean, we could still have like these other loading zones, these other shorter durations without the safety sticks, right? Like, or,
Well,
Enforcement, maybe? I think
it's
that's
the enforcement of that, right? And so that's what Commander Garcia is getting at, is that they don't have the staff to come and chalk something, right?
Sure.
If that's the indicator, and then come back 10, 15 minutes later or however long. They could get a call and they'd be off,
Yeah,
be gone for an
understood.
hour, like, and so it wouldn't matter who was. in that
but
limit.
that's no worse than we're off than we are today, right? Because we still have time limit slots that aren't enforced. Is that fair? Or is it, I'm just trying to figure out, is there something about changing these conditions that suddenly necessitates enforcement, more enforcement?
I
don't
think
know.
the community outreach and what they're asking for is more enforcement, right? The businesses are asking for more enforcement. and the-
Agreed.
You know,
Agreed, but because right now, we don't have an adequate loading zones. Right now, we don't have any short-term temporary parking, like 15 minutes, right? So, yeah, I guess I don't see why, like, let's say if we were to say no on the safety sticks, that why we wouldn't still proceed with these other measures to try to, communicate that we need behavior change.
I think we've already, made the recommendation that all the others will still go forward.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay,
And
then
so-
I'm confused, but I thought you said to couple the
I was
decisions.
asking whether the yellow parking and like the 2 spots, and then are we gonna vote individually for sticks or just sticks across, all
Oh,
those?
I'm sorry. I
Like all 10
misunderstood
sticks,
yours.
and obviously
Oh,
they would
okay.
probably recommend where we put the sticks anyways. That's
And
not-
Yeah.
to Stacy's point, like, she would have her engineer and they would work with Commander Garcia to decide, like, these are your hotspots, right? Like,
Yep, yep.
maybe it is only 1 or 2 or 5, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, right? That they come out and they do a plan and assessment, and then they decide, let's start there. Maybe then it turns out we do need, I don't want to say 100, but 50, right? I don't know
Mm-hmm.
the answer to that, and I think I'd rather make the recommendation or not that the city council at least explores using safety sticks as a tool, as
Mm-hmm. Yep.
part of the suite.
Yeah.
And then let the experts make some analysis for us on how many and where. Is
Yep.
that fair?
Yeah, I think my only comment on this would be is if we can get more of an analysis of this enforcement model, like how strict we are planned to be with it, because I know that affects the revenue model of this company, right? And I would want the city to have control over, how strictly it's enforced.
And they do. That was one of the
With-
questions I asked for Commander Garcia. They said, if you're 11 seconds over that 2-hour time limit, are you getting a ticket? And he said, yeah, you're getting a ticket, right? So whatever the time duration is, if that stick takes its pictures,
Mhm.
you're over, you're getting a ticket, right?
Yep. And then I guess I just would want to make sure that that doesn't then, I don't know, trigger some kind of like where we have to pay more for it or some kind of ongoing cost in perpetuity because we don't have the enforcement volume that's needed for the company.
Oh,
to be
you mean for
profitable.
MPS, if there's not the enforcement volume? I think that's kind of one of my questions, right? Was like, is that something that can be negotiated? Because I want to believe that generally this community is pretty fair-minded and pretty good at following the rules because we're small. That even if there was, 100 tickets in the first month, like after a couple months, that might just peter out, right?
Yeah, right.
So that's the risk that MPS then has to take on. That's,
Yep.
that's up to them.
Yep.
And apparently a town in Texas never gives their stick back, so we don't either.
Maybe, yeah, that could be true.
All right, anyone else have any questions, comments, concerns about using or recommending the safety sticks to the city council?
So, how soon have you seen efficacy on with this technology, Stacy? I mean, efficacy that is working, and
I've seen devices get put in, and within 2 weeks, they don't see a single ticket.
okay. I mean,
But it depends. It depends on, again, traffic, if they put signs up, the city, ticket price, it just depends. Like, every city really is a different case. But ideally, within 2 to 3 months, you're gonna probably see tickets decline by 25%. And then after that, it go down to 50%, and then it typically gets down to about that 25% range. But we go to writing 15 to 20 times the amount of tickets. And then a year later, we're still capturing more tickets than you were when you were enforcing by yourself. Does that make sense?
yeah. I mean,
I can give Barbara all this data I have.
yeah, give us as much as data that you have that will be helpful, especially for the council. I mean, in Brisbane there is a culture, so this might be a little bit of a culture shock to hit them with these little stick things. But when they start to see, the business people, in compliance, they go there, they do their business, and then the people that are coming from outside, they're finding parking, I think they might start liking it.
That is the same in every city, I can tell you that. Where everyone seems to think they're worried about the public, the uproar, the response to it. That is normal for us to deal with and give recommendations on how to roll it out. I feel like the response is that's typically the same.
Yeah, I think it's important to all of us to make sure we're having outreach and communication, whether it's in the Star or in the billboard or, social media, whatever, however we communicate that these are coming.
And I have tons of examples of that as well. We've been in the Boston Globe 3 times, front page of newspapers, or sorry, Parking Today magazine. And I also have dozens of news stories, live news stories that I can send.
And she said her CEO would pay for a mass mailer, so there's that.
Yeah, there's that, yep.
I know, I see that, Chris. I did. I was like, oh, I should ask her to come up. I'm like, yeah. All right,
Yeah.
anyone else have any other questions, comments, concerns before we take a vote for the committee on this? No? Okay. Anyone in favor of recommending the safety sticks to the city council?
Yes.
Aye.
I as well.
Paul? Aye. Great. So let's recommend the safety sticks to the city council and let the engineering team decide with their engineering team where to put them, post them. Okay. And then the last one I want to
Oh,
talk.
and then I guess one question, how are we framing this? Is it like, we just make the decision and then it's then the committee, the council then regulates how well it's going, et cetera? Or do we want to structure in, let's say, after X months that the data gets shared back with this committee to then, recommend next steps? Like, how do you want to structure this decision process?
Is that something we normally do?
Karen, do you want to comment on that maybe, or staff want to comment on that?
Right, because this is just the first of several decisions around this. So yeah, how should we frame this?
I think that we would, in this case, I think we would ask council about that because they referred this item to us. In the past, we have reviewed recommendations that you've made, and actually the city manager asked us to bring to you guys first the results of our survey on Thomas Avenue next month. So I would expect them to want your thoughts on how it's going.
Great. Thank you. All right. And then any additional questions, comments, concerns regarding recommending city council that they increase the double parking fines, the parking fines on Visitation?
And this, I guess, would be double parking as well as sort of the parking fines for these spots particularly that we identify, like the 4 spots as well, or just for everything, or what are we thinking?
I was thinking everything, but let's open for discussion.
Okay, my viewpoint on this would be for the safety sticks, I think we would keep that more lenient since it's very new and there aren't a lot of, there could be a lot of, surprises for people, but I'm in favor of raising the rates for like double parking and other spaces that aren't enforced by the safety sticks.
So for if they're a 2-hour parking, let's say, if they go over the 2-hour, increasing that. Okay. Christian?
So I think what you're saying is, which I think I agree, for the double parking, increase the fine, but whatever you have, the safety stick, just to keep it the way it is now, because they're going to be getting more hit, and if it's double, they're not going to be happy.
Paul, any thoughts, questions, concerns?
No, thank you.
Darius?
Yeah. So in that case, it'd be double parking is what we'd be recommending higher fines for, because we don't have 2-hour parking outside of the sticks places at the moment.
Do we have 2-hour parking on Visitation? Do we have any parking?
It's all up and down, but we base it on a complaint basis, so we generally do not enforce them.
I guess maybe the question is what's the posted?
I mean, the loading zones, yeah. the
Not
loading
just
zones.
loading zones, but is there a
Yeah,
general?
it
Yeah,
is 2 hour
okay.
parking, yes.
Yeah, up and down visitation,
Yes.
right? Whether it's a TNC that's gonna be added, you know,
Correct.
or loading, there's still a 2 hour.
Yes.
But it's not enforced.
Correct.
But-
And
but I don't
again, the
think-
same thing applies. To enforce that, we come back, chalk the tires, come back 2 hours later, and then we can set at that point.
But are we implementing the safety stick for that, or is it just for the loading zones and then for the other?
We would start with, I would recommend we'd start with hotspots, and then we can always scale them up.
Okay.
Like Stacy
Right.
said,
Yeah,
we
that-
can
that's
always
my
come back and
understanding
get
too.
more. Yes.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think that's something that we leave to Commander Garcia, engineer, and MPS engineers to figure out where it's best to start with that. But in general, again, the question then goes, increasing the fines for double parking and increasing just the parking fine, I guess, whether it's 2 hours or 10 minutes.
Yeah, then maybe just to be very precise, then maybe it's like, yes, increase, but then anywhere where a safety stick is implemented, then leave the existing $40 rate in place. I guess maybe that's what I'm recommending. Because if a hotspot is a 2 hour spot, I'm not in favor of increasing that fine because this is a brand new process. Does that make sense?
Can I make a suggestion, Chair?
Yeah.
Partially in the interest of time and partially because there are a lot of new ideas here. Maybe that's just we're recommending implementing the other things, and let's come back and look at if that's effective and then consider in the future increasing fines. Because some of the things about, parking is different than traffic calming, but as things are, you kind of need new things to get people engaged. So if this doesn't work, then there's always the option to raise fines.
True, I appreciate that, but I'm also of the same mind as Randy. I've used the carrot and stick at the same time. So, you know, adding the increased fine as well as having the parking there. So, and I think it sounds like everybody's in favor of recommending increasing the fine for double parking and yeah.
I do have one question regarding the street sweeping hours. Would that include the street sweeping hours with the sticks?
The signs are turned around, so we don't enforce that at this time.
Anyone in favor of recommending the city council consider increasing the double parking fine and the parking fine fees? Yes.
I think I'm only in favor for the double parking, increasing the fine right now.
All right, we'll split them out. Anyone in favor of recommending to increase the double parking fine?
Aye.
I as well.
Great, let's recommend that. Anyone in favor of recommending to increase the parking fine?
No.
Yes?
Also no, especially if we're not increasing in the other spots, then no.
No? Okay, we're not
No as well.
recommending, thank you. We're not recommending increasing to parking at this time. We'll consider it again later. All right. The other new business was the review of the Baylands draft EIR comments. In consideration of time, how do we want to address that? Or move it to next month?
Oh, you just asked to keep this on the agenda so that everyone keeps on top of the assignment to review the draft DIR and provide comments. We did send out a template, so I'm curious if anybody has questions. With the other committee that I staff, they're doing a number of chapters, so we're trying to schedule it, but people wanted to look at it at different priorities, so we can put this on next month, and we welcome comments before that to review next month, if you have them. So we'll send out an email with a deadline to turn in your comments if we're gonna review anything at the next meeting, but I just encourage you all to look at what you're reviewing and be prepared to comment and discuss.
I'm sorry, I have just one more question back to Visitacion. In terms, this is a process question. Are we going to try to have a meeting with the business and the residents, community, to get them on board, sort of like we did with, the one-way project with Mariposa and Mendocino? or we're just going to make a straight proposal to the council?
I think what I've been getting, just given the time frame, I think we're just going to make that proposal. I didn't anticipate a community event similar to Mariposa, but maybe Karen can. Up to you,
We also had the survey that went out, right? And so some of us have already been talking to businesses and residents on Visitacion. So I think just organically that's kind of been happening, especially with that survey. And I think there was like 140 people who responded to the survey. So I think we got a lot of good feedback.
And some staff went out door to door
Yeah.
to all the businesses and asked them for feedback and let them know about the survey and to respond to it.
Right. So I think we're just going straight forward with the recommendations. Okay, so for next month, if you all can review the executive summary, the transportation section, and then the appendix F1 and F2, come with your comments. We'll probably spend a good amount of time discussing that. Karen did send out a template. I looked at that and said, not right now, because that's, page by page, section by section, sending that. So if you can at least put in some of your comments or questions, I know that will help Karen, Tomas, and Randy be prepared for our discussion next month. Any staff updates?
The shuttle stop improvement project is well underway. Concrete work has been completed for 7 of the 8 stops. The last stop is 99 South Hill Drive, but you'll see all across Valley, and if you go out to West Hill Place, that the concrete work has been done to make the concrete pads ADA compliant and their approaches ADA compliant. Most of the bulk of the construction work is done, and we're just kind of waiting on the bus shelters that are, I think they was up to 10 weeks of delivery, so those are going to arrive in July. But most of the work is done there. For the Alvarado San Benito stairway, we issued the notice to proceed for June 11th. So the contractor will start work. Oh well, if they're on top of it, they'll start working then, because that's when their clock starts ticking for working days. So June 11th, we'll begin the Alvarado San Benito walkway project.
And that pathway will be closed to pedestrians for a number of months while that's being built.
Right, and then we're going to do a lot of, we were talking with Caroline earlier, doing public outreach regarding this closure. Any other staff updates? I'm putting together a sign replacement project. We kind of do this every year. This is just an annual regular project. We've upgraded stop signs that are undersized in the past. But if you see a stop sign that's particularly faded, I mean, you could submit a service request and I could add it to my list, because it's kind of a loose list. I'm just putting together just a list of replacements to do within budget. And that's all I got.
Good questions. Are you guys running that street light on the intersection of San Bruno and I guess Amazon is there now, where the accident happened? Because they took away, it was a pole on the center divider, but now it's up in the air.
What's the question?
Are you guys doing that, or?
The developer is doing that. We have reviewed, and that was a requirement of their development.
I was thinking maybe they want to do some Bruno and Bayshore.
No, I don't think they do.
Oh, and last one, those RPMs on Visitation. I was out there earlier at 7 in the morning if you saw me, but I was marking where they would go on San Bruno Avenue. So those are going to go in pretty soon for AB 413 for the parking restrictions for the approaches.
Thank you, Tomas. Any chair committee member matters? I don't see any. Anybody want to add anything for agendas for next month?
I do.
Okay.
So I wanted to thank staff for putting up the pedestrian crossing signs at North Hill and Monarch. I've heard from trail users that that's been very helpful, because most people had a hard time crossing there because nobody was stopping for them. So thank you for that. And I would also like for our next meeting to look at the situation on Valley in front of the Brisbane City Annex. The striping for the lane going into the turn towards Bayshore is no longer there. And I was wondering if we could also get a traffic signal sign ahead as they come into that turn. I mean, most people know that there's a traffic signal there, but there's a lot of confusion there sometimes, making that turn.
The striping, you could just do a service request, and you probably could for the sign too. I think there are standards for when you need a traffic signal ahead sign. But if you do that, we'll look into it.
So
The
put
ser-
in a service request?
Yeah.
Use the-
Okay, so these aren't committee member matters?
No, I think refreshing striping that's faded is a good service request.
Okay,
I'm personally aware of what that one that
okay.
you noted.
Just use your My Brisbane app and add it. Anyone else? Well, then can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll move.
Second? All in favor? We're out.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.